Hey everyone, I sincerely appreciate your support. If you enjoy my audiobooks, I would be truly grateful if you could subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to support even further, you're welcome to become a Patreon member, where you can access audiobooks of novels as long as they are freely available on the internet. Your kindness and support mean so much. Thank you.
The time was evening. As the streets filled with salarymen carrying their briefcases, I stood at a certain location near the heart of the city. Here we go, damn, I'm getting nervous. My heart raced incessantly since I had finally decided to get to the main subject. After all, if I fail this, it's all over. If I mess this up, the second world's Haruka will remain the same. And eventually, this first world's Haruka will suffer the same fate due to bullying. The weight of responsibility pressed down on me, the heaviest burden I'd ever felt in my entire life. But none of that mattered. Who backs down just because the bar is set high? TLN, me. I was originally just an introverted, weak-willed guy, like a dime a dozen. But now, in my heart, there's a resolute determination to achieve my goal, no matter the obstacles. What fuels that determination is the insane regret I feel for the pitiful first life I led. I'll never experience that kind of suffering again. I'll crush the impending worst-case scenario no matter what. That's the resolve I hold. And now, it's not just that. What comes to mind are the scenes from the second world. In my second youth as a high school student, I gained many things I'd missed before. Improvement in my relationship with my sister, a youth with everyone at school, an expanded circle of friends, and above all forging a deep bond with Haruka. I recall Haruka's radiant smile, her eyes that reflected me, and the many moments we spent together. The determination to protect the future of the girl I hold dear burns within me with a terrifying intensity. Don't underestimate the introvert who defies time. I'm a dangerous individual would even alter history to fulfill my own love. With this determination firmly set, I stopped in my tracks. In the direction of my gaze, a 6-story tall corporate building stood. It was a major company in the local industry, with a fair amount of recognition due to TV commercials and the like. This was the workplace where Haruka had continued to go. This detestable place, where they killed the heart of that innocent girl. As impressive as this renowned company's building is, I guess the inside isn't necessarily clean after all. In my previous life, when Haruka met her downfall, in my corporate slave days, read the article with a sense of disbelief, hoping it was some kind of mistake. I absorbed the content as if my life depended on it. As a result, I came to intimately understand the grotesque extent of the ugly bullying that led to Haruka's demise, leaving me with a lasting trauma. However, this also etched the name of the company responsible firmly in my memory. And now, I stand in a position where I can see the entrance of that company, pretending to fiddle with my phone like a detective on a stakeout. I'm here to meet the adult Haruka who will soon come out from there. My sole purpose is one to avoid the worst-case scenario of Haruka becoming a shut-in. And the concrete means to achieve this is surprisingly simple. Haruka continued to suffer severe bullying in the company, which ultimately led to her mental breakdown. So, just like I did today, it would be best if Haruka also quits the company. But, convincing her will be quite challenging. After all, in this first world, Haruka and I have no more than the relationship of classmates in high school, and our contact is very sparse. Haruka has probably long forgotten about me, but that doesn't matter, I have to do it. Starting from a position almost as a complete stranger, it feels like I might cry, but first, I need to establish a position where I can talk to Haruka. With my determination firm, I, once again, focus on the company's entrance. About 2 hours have passed since the standard quitting time, and there's been no sign of anyone coming out of the building. Perhaps today is an offsite or something, I thought. Haruka, I muttered in amazement as the figure of a woman emerged from the company's entrance. The now 25-year-old Shijuan Haruka, the same age as me, was there. First, what captivated me was her matured beauty. Her beauty, already angelic back in high school, now combined the allure of an adult and the innocence of a girl, creating something that could only be described as goddess-like. She wore a rather plain lady's suit, but having seen Haruka from high school until just recently, I was captivated by the contrast of this adult symbol. Her eyes, like sparkling stars, her lustrous lips, and her long hair gleaming with radiance, all shone brighter than in high school, with no shadow on her beauty. But what's with that expression? From the face of the adult Haruka, radiating mature charm, that radiant innocence had disappeared. She seemed devoid of vitality, like a widow mourning a loved one, with only the profound fatigue evident. Exhausted from being an adult, a woman stood there who had lost hope. As someone who knew the blooming smile of Haruka in high school, I felt my chest tighten at this deeply wounded expression. How much pain must she have endured to have that radiant sparkle disappear from her face? It hurts, but I can't think about it now. I just need to make contact with Haruka. With determination, I once again observed the company's entrance. As someone who knew Haruka's smiling face that bloomed in high school, my heart tightens at this deeply wounded expression. To see that girl who was like the sun now with such a clouded face, just how much pain must she have experienced? It hurts, but I can't think about it now. Anyway, I need to make contact with Haruka. With the chance presenting itself, I slowly approach Haruka. What I'm doing is nothing short of stalking, but for me at this moment, there's no other way to establish contact other than to approach her on the street. Excuse me? Could I have a moment? As I call out to her, Haruka slowly turns to look at me. Her eyes are still as beautiful as jewels, but there's a shadow of deep exhaustion in their radiance. It's Haruka truly, the adult. When I look directly at her, I momentarily catch my breath at the aura and beauty she exudes. The girl I love most in the world has grown up, and my heart can't help but race. I'm sorry for stopping you so suddenly. I must decline. The moment I try to say the prepared words, Haruka's sharp voice descends on me like a cold shower. I cannot entertain any invitations from you. Please understand. Without showing any emotion, Haruka states it like a routine administrative procedure. This dry and unemotional way of speaking, along with her expression, so different from the Haruka of high school, leaves me somewhat shocked and frozen. Then, I'll take my leave. With that, Haruka turns on her heel, intending to leave this place. She's leaving. Haruka is disappearing from right in front of me. The intense anxiety I feel at this moment isn't because the key to saving high school Haruka is moving away from Mano, it's not that. It's because this exhausted Haruka is vanishing into the darkness beyond my reach. She's headed back onto a path of suffering that I can't see. Riding on the tracks of a predetermined future, she's heading towards a future where her heart will shatter. The sight of this woman, wearing such a pained expression, returning to a path of anguish, fills me with a burning impatience that feels like my nerves are searing. I wanted to say, back in high school, I wanted to tell you all along. In my efforts to get closer to Haruka, I'd completely forgotten the words I'd prepared. Instead, what naturally spilled out were the feelings that had settled in my heart. Because back then, I hardly ever talked to girls. That time, when you, Haruka-san, asked me for a recommendation for a light novel, I was so happy. As Haruka, who was about to leave, suddenly stops, her wide eyes turn toward me. After that, even though you started conversations with me about light novels and stuff, I always got flustered. If I made you uncomfortable, I'm really sorry. I just couldn't talk properly because I was so nervous. Letting out all my feelings in one breath, I exhale roughly. Damn it, what am I yelling about? To me, this is the only beautiful memory in my introverted youth, but to Haruka, it's probably just something like talking a bit with Mob Boy. It's likely etched in her memory. Nayahama, right? As Haruka, unexpectedly, utters my name, my eyes widen in surprise. She remembers me? In the second loop, maybe, but in the first loop world, the socially awkward guy with a barely there presence? You remember me? Yes, of course. When we were library committee members you recommended a light novel to me. She spoke, reminiscing about what was my most beautiful memory. I haven't been able to read much lately but back then, I got really hooked. So, I was grateful to you, Nayahama-kun. With those words, Haruka quietly smiled. It wasn't the lively smile from our high school days, but a smile tinged with a hint of melancholy. She remembers me. I felt like tears were about to well up. She remembered that precious memory, framed in my recollections, not just me but Haruka as well. That fact was the greatest solace in that gray youth. I'm really sorry about earlier. I thought a stranger was trying to approach me, so I responded pretty coldly. It's been a long time. No, it's only natural. You bumped into me by chance, and if a guy approaches you on the street at this hour, it's only natural to be on guard. Although it was the only option I had to approach her on the street, I was aware that it was a situation where she could scream. And of course, chance was an outright lie. Hihi, it seems like you've become brighter, Nayahama-kun. But, when flustered, your expression is just like back then. With an adult charm different from back then, Haruka chuckled. By the way, it really is a coincidence. Are you working around here, Nayahama-kun? Yeah, not exactly nearby, but it's in the same city. Well, it's a pretty tough place. I deliberately didn't mention that I had quit from there today. I followed up with a self-deprecating smile. I'm a bit embarrassed to admit it, but it's actually quite a black company. And I'm not in the good graces of my boss, so they intentionally piled on work at the last minute, and every day, they'd say things that felt like an attack on my personality. So, I'm worn out every day. As I disclosed this, Haruka showed a noticeable reaction. The reason needed no imagination. Haruka was being tormented day and night just like this. So I understand, Shizuen-san. You must be going through a lot at work, right? Wha? She gasped loudly, taken aback by my earnest inquiry. Is your body also acting up in various ways? Feeling short of breath just from sitting down, being tired but not able to sleep at all. Why would you? Because I've seen plenty of people at work who were pushing themselves too hard. Just by looking at their complexion, I could tell roughly how bad it was. It's not just today or yesterday that's been tough. I'm guessing it's become a daily struggle for you. Of course, I could say this with confidence because I knew in detail what had happened to Haruka. However, even if it hadn't been the case, I would have been able to sense the oppressive atmosphere surrounding Haruka. The agony seeping through her face was nothing but that of someone who had been relentlessly torn apart, someone I knew all too well. Now, from here, with sweat dampening my nervousness, I gazed directly at the adult Haruka. Just for this moment, I needed to weave reality and fiction together to establish a connection with her. If we parted here as old classmates, there would be no future beyond this. Hey, Shizuen-san. I know this is sudden and I apologize, but would you join me for a meal? Haruka's eyes widened in surprise at my casual suggestion. That was only natural. If we were still students, it might be one thing, but now that we were both adults, this invitation was quite forward. I just spoke to you on a whim, thinking about the old times. I didn't really plan on getting too involved. I just wanted to talk a bit about back then and say goodbye. This was a lie. I knew Haruka's current situation. However, if this wasn't the future I knew, but a world where Haruka was living happily, I would ultimately respect that happiness. But seeing you like this, Shishun-san, I can't just leave it at that. That's what I feel. You're wearing such a troubled expression. Huh. Just like I said earlier, I've seen plenty of people with the same expression who ended up going off the deep end. Each and every one of them, their endings were tragic. This was my honest feeling. No matter what, I wanted to save this adult Haruka, who was imprisoned in a gloomy darkness. I absolutely couldn't allow her to be swept away into a future of destruction. And aren't you keeping it all to yourself, Shishun-san? You haven't seriously talked about your pain with your family or anyone else, right? Haruka, who had been struck close to the truth, gasped, but this was something I already knew as well. If Haruka had communicated her pain to her family, her parents, who cared so deeply for her, wouldn't leave her be in such a state. I'm just a classmate you happened to run into on the street. Tomorrow, it'll be a stranger again. So no matter how meddlesome it might be, think it's necessary for you right now to let it out. Nayahama, you. Haruka called out my name, bewildered. In her voice, there seemed to be a change in her recognition of my existence. So, please, Shishun-san. Just for today, with the familiarity of those days, won't you accompany me? In the night street filled with darkness, I earnestly made my request, illuminated by a street light. Though I repeated my words no matter what, the two of us were adults of opposite sexes. It wouldn't be strange for Haruka to think that what I was saying was a pick-up line. How would she react? And that expression? I was most concerned about vigilance and rejection, but in the voice that Haruka let slip, there was a strangely curious tone. What's going on? In the end, what feelings does Haruka hold right now? Then, I'll gladly take you up on your offer. Huh. While this was the response I had hoped for, it was also unexpected. To draw out those words so quickly. I just want to talk a little more with you, Nayahama-kun. The smile that appeared on the face of the adult Haruka was, as expected, so beautiful that it captivated. In a calm izakaya interior, the adult version of Haruka and I sat facing each other. Although it was a restaurant I found quickly with a smartphone search, the relaxed atmosphere was quite nice. Hihi, it feels a bit strange for classmates to exchange business cards, doesn't it? Yeah, it's kind of a weird feeling, realizing we've both become adults. Once we sat down together, we instinctively pulled out our business cards, a habit we'd picked up as working adults, and shared a wry smile. Thanks to that, the tension between us eased more than I'd expected, and the atmosphere became warmer than I'd thought it would be. But, Haruka's business card, huh? The characters printed on the small piece of paper, the company name, department, followed by Shishun Haruka danced around as if they were proof that the girl had completely become a working adult. 7 years had passed since she was a high school student. Whether I liked it or not, I couldn't help but feel the weight of those years. As I thought about these things, a waiter came over and said, "Sorry to keep you waiting." They began serving the food and drinks on the table. Well then, shall we cheers? Yes, thank you for your hard work, Nayahama-kun. Fried chicken, rolled omelette, wakame salad, teriyaki skewers, and various other dishes were spread out on the table. We raised our glasses with a light clink. Drinking with the adult Haruka feels a bit strange. I, who had no experience going out for drinks with a woman in private, sipped beer for the first time in a long while with a slight nervousness. The bitterness on my tongue and the fizz sensation as it went down my throat were the flavors of adulthood that I hadn't tasted in a while. Strangely, I felt like I could appreciate the taste better now compared to when I was a stressed-out salaryman. It's delicious. Haruka, taking a sip of her Campari orange, showed a satisfied expression. Her pink lips touching the transparent glass had a somewhat provocative allure, making me acutely aware of her matured charm. Do you usually drink, Shishun-san? Yes, embarrassingly, I started drinking somewhat regularly after becoming a working adult. With the glass now about 2/3 empty, Shishun-san said somewhat self-deprecatingly. When I was a child, I couldn't understand why adults liked alcohol so much, but now, I painfully understand. When you drink, you feel a bit lighter. She wasn't enjoying it for pleasure, but using it to distract herself from stress. Hearing Haruka talk about this, I felt a pain in my chest. This wasn't a healthy way to drink. So, do you usually drink alone? Or with friends or, a boyfriend? Bringing up that word felt like a stab in my heart, but I forced it out to get the necessary information. In the first loop, I didn't know the details of Haruka's life up until the end. However, considering Haruka's beauty, during her university days and working life when romance would have been more active, countless people must have approached her. During high school, I didn't make any friends at all, so when I entered university, I was determined to make plenty. At first, things seemed to be going well, but... I see. Could it be that a lot of guys approached you? Yes, that's right. Once I entered university, I was approached by so many, really a lot of guys. It might sound like boasting, but according to those people, they couldn't help but try to woo me because my appearance stood out so much. I see. Once she started being approached by guys a lot, I guess that natural barrier she had in high school would have disappeared. But Haruka's voice, as she spoke, didn't have the tone of someone boasting about her looks or popularity. Instead, it was as if she was recounting a very burdensome memory. But, I'm really quite immature. Up until now, I've never had a boyfriend. Is that so? That was something to be joyful about for my selfish possessiveness, but it was abnormal by regular standards. Once she recognized that her beauty was drawing romantic attention from many people, that natural barrier from high school would have disappeared. And the people who approached me were always very popular with the opposite sex. They were athletes, had good looks, or were from high-level universities, of course. Those are all strengths. But for some reason, those people were always overflowing with confidence. I quickly understood the situation. With her peerless beauty, once she reached the age where romantic freedom would be higher, there would have been an overwhelming number of approaches, compared to high school. However, precisely because she was the excessively beautiful daughter of the company president, many men felt intimidated, and only those who were naturally high-spec and full of confidence dared to approach her. So, those kinds of guys were actually not your type. I'm sorry for those people, yes. Some of them, when I turned them down, would become extremely abusive or even try to grab me. Fortunately, our driver was there to help, so nothing serious happened. While there were guys who went that far, it was probably the result of the typical overconfidence and exuberance of an extroverted person. I couldn't understand the reason for getting angry. Their pride, wounded by rejection, must be more important than anything else. As such things continued, I started to become a little wary of men. And even among the female university students who didn't like me, I heard rumors like she's a bad woman who changes boyfriends like clothes, so I didn't have any friends. I see, that's quite. Her much-anticipated university debut seemed to have ended in a miserable way. In this first loop, there were no friends like Kazumihara or Fudehashi, and she must have felt quite lonely. But hey, even though you've become a bit wary of men, you still came out with me today. While I carefully crafted my words, the fact remained that, as a man, I was the one who invited her to dinner. I thought she might have a strong aversion to it. That's because, Naya Hamakan, you didn't exude much heat. Heat? Yes, among the countless invitations I received from men, I somehow came to understand the level of fervor they directed towards me. It's a slightly different feeling from romantic attraction, more like a burning passion. What Haruka was saying somehow made sense. It was probably a mix of possessiveness and desire that men directed towards her, this angelic and delicate Haruka. In other words, it was a feeling even more intense than liking. The people who approached me were mostly those who directed a strong heat towards me. No matter how gentle their approach seemed on the surface, they couldn't hide it. But Haruka looked at me with a genuinely puzzled expression. When you, Naya Hamakan, invited me to dinner earlier, there was absolutely no sign of heat on your face. Instead, I could only see a strong worry that seemed like you might burst into tears any moment. It was like how my mother or father would do. I had that expression, huh. To be honest, I was captivated by this matured Haruka, and if I said I wasn't even a bit excited about this izakaya date situation, it would be a lie. But what was occupying my mind now was the intense sense of urgency that if I didn't save Haruka, everything would be over. Certainly, there would be little color or heat in my expression. Why are you so worried about me? We were just classmates back then. I was about to reflexively say it. It was because, to me, you are the most important girl in the world. Of course, the goal was to save the high school Haruka, but right now, in front of me, I also wanted to save the adult you. I wanted to say it out loud. Before, at my workplace, there was someone who collapsed. While still concealing the truth, I opened my mouth to convey my feelings. We didn't have much interaction, but she was a beautiful and kind person. Undoubtedly, she was someone who should have led a happy life. Listening to my confession, Haruka was listening quietly with a solemn expression. But that person was mentally crushed by workplace bullying and became like a speechless doll. It's still a trauma for me. That's terrible. Yeah, it's really a horrible story. This story must not become a prophecy for you. That person had no outlet anywhere. If they could have vented their suffering to a colleague, boss, or even a friend, maybe they wouldn't have reached that state. The more earnest a person is, the less likely they are to complain and instead confront their daily struggles silently. But that also means that the damage accumulates endlessly without relief. So, I've become sensitive to people carrying excessive stress, and even if I'm seen as persistent, I want to meddle. The reason I boldly stepped into the territory of a former classmate after so long is because of that. You're kind, Naya Hamakan. Perhaps sensing the emotions I unintentionally put into my words, Haruka seemed to understand my motive. Well, I've also worked in a black company, so it's not just a matter for others. You mentioned it earlier, but what's it like? I'm curious because I don't know about workplaces other than my own. Haha, well, it's bad. First of all, there's no concept of overtime pay. Even if you work 100 hours of overtime in a month, it's all unpaid. It's normal to be called in on holidays, and there's no handover or manuals because the turnover rate is high. It's practically a crime. As I explained the internal situation of my company, which I've actually already quit, Haruka's face twisted slightly. Well, it was understandable. If I talked about the aspects of power harassment and excessive workload, our company would probably be quite the formidable black company. But you know, what was even harder was, in the end, people. The mental pain inflicted by those heartless people who don't see others as human. My words, heavily infused with my real feelings, made Haruka twitch. Just because they're seniors or bosses, it's a constant stream of insults, calling people idiots, morons, telling them to die. And sometimes they even say things like parents must be incompetent. To be honest, they're all like dead inside as human beings? I understand. Incredibly terrible words fly around, and it's treated as if it's completely normal. Exactly. It's weird that you can spew out all kinds of abuse just because it's the workplace. Even though they're adults, they're hardly any different from rude students. Yes, that's exactly it. I thought the adult world would be strict but rational, but it's not like that at all. In response to my passionate complaints, which had leaked out my emotions, Harika returned with an enthusiastic reaction, as if she completely understood. The shadows on her face had become extremely faint, and her voice was lively. Indeed, she probably hadn't had the opportunity to vent out this kind of stress until now. It might be insensitive, but I'm having a lot of fun. The darkness of society that had been tormenting me since I became an adult. To be able to complain about it to the woman I cared about, be empathized with, and drink alcohol over it, this loop felt very pleasant. If only before dying from overwork, I could have reunited with Harika and had a conversation like this. In that case maybe, without relying on the miracle of time loops, I could have avoided my downfall. Dreaming of such things, Harika and I, the adult version, were getting more and more heated about our workplace grievances, and the atmosphere at the drinking session was steadily warming up. Now that I think about it, I believe the correct approach would have been to ingratiate oneself with the influential figures at the workplace through flattery and gifts, and secure a safe position right from the start. But for someone like me, who was originally not very good with words, it never even occurred to do something like that. No, it's not just you, Naya Hamakan. I'm really bad at those things too. After almost an hour of venting about the workplace, Harika's expression and voice had softened considerably. The drinks were flowing moderately, and each of us was on our second glass. This is not good. She looks incredibly alluring. Even without the effects of alcohol, Harika, who already possessed an extraordinary beauty, was now even more enchanting with the flush on her cheeks. The kind of charm that seemed capable of melting one's rationality just by looking at her. Yet, I couldn't help but feel helpless knowing that this very charm was bringing unwanted troubles into Harika's life. Now then, it's time to touch upon the subject I need to discuss. I took a sip of beer and turned to Harika with a glass of water, a step towards reaching the purpose of this meeting. Now then, could you share your story, Shijuan-san? I'd like to know everything you're experiencing at your current workplace. As I brought up the topic, Harika's expression, which had just softened, turned rigid once again, and the slight ease in the atmosphere faded away. Well, yes. There's really nothing significant about my story. With this preface, Harika began to speak, recounting the emotional pain I had only known through information. At first there wasn't anything particularly big. I did get approached by men quite often, but that started to decrease as I got more accustomed to the work. Taking a sip of Cassis orange, Harika started her tale. But then, around the time I started turning down invitations from particularly popular male colleagues, my female co-workers gradually stopped greeting me, and they started giving me a lot of work right before I was about to leave. Even though I was aware, hearing the details so vividly from Harika stirred a boiling anger within me. What kind of childish behavior is this? Still, at first, I thought it was just a misunderstanding or coincidence. But, before I knew it, rumors were spreading among the female employees about nothing but me. Haha. It was quite a shock when I realized it was exactly the same situation as in university. That was only natural. The adult world she had aspired to escape the jealousy of women had, in reality, been filled with the same petty envy. It must have been a painfully familiar situation for Harika. And then, I started getting snide comments every day from a certain influential group of female employees, and it finally escalated to harassment, like them throwing away my personal belongings or deliberately not telling me my work schedule. And the reason? Apparently because I was getting too full of myself. What the? Once again, I involuntarily shouted at this language specialized in accusations. I mean, even adults resorting to getting too full of oneself as a reason? Actually, that's completely unacceptable, isn't it? Can't you report them to your superiors or something? That's impossible. Saying this, Harika conveyed with a sad smile. That influential group of female employees are relatives of the president, and no one can say a word against them. In fact, I once sent an email to the company's consultation desk, but all I got was a reply saying they were considering it. What? Listening to Harika's heartfelt outpour, I couldn't help but feel both pained and somewhat relieved. Alright, this is good. She can vent her complaints and we can chat casually. Harika is still at a stage where she can turn back. If this were a few years later, Harika might have already accepted her daily suffering as the norm, and it would have been irreversible. But now, in this moment, she could still express her pain. She could still talk about it. Naya Hamakan, you've also been subjected to terrible things at the workplace for a long time, right? Please tell me. What can I do to persevere through this hardship? How do the others manage so well? With an agitated expression and a face reddened by alcohol, Harika asked me. But, there's no miraculous solution to offer her. I tried many things myself. Recalling the time when I grappled with similar issues, I spoke. I researched the difficult personalities of my difficult superiors, contemplated what was allowed and what wasn't, worked incredibly hard to gain their favor. I tried many things. I won't say it was all in vain, but no matter what I did, no matter how I behaved, in the end, I suffered until the day I died. That's why I can say with certainty, in the end, there's no way to fundamentally change a wretched human being who can easily say cruel things to others. After all, they don't understand the pain of others. They're monsters who can hurt others so severely without any breaks, unable to imagine the pain. There's no way for humans to fight against monsters like them. I'm sorry, Shijun-san. Actually, I lied a little. It's true that I was working for a black company, but I just quit today. To Haruka, who showed surprise, I added more words. No matter how hard you try, no matter how well you do, if you're in a fundamentally rotten place, you'll only end up being destroyed. The only solution is to escape from there. I slowly conveyed what I wanted to say the most during this meeting. In my case, due to stress, my health was deteriorating rapidly, and because I didn't quit the black company, my relationship with my family also worsened. I wonder if your parents are constantly worried, seeing their daughter's complexion growing worse? That is, perhaps Shijun-san is behaving as if everything is fine to her family. However, they must be sensing something. Even so, it's not that I want you to quit working altogether. I just want you to change jobs and choose a better environment. The place where you are, Shijun-san, is clearly not normal. If you don't escape soon, it's going to get really bad. I bowed my head and sincerely conveyed my message. Please, escape from that hell and avoid ruining your entire life with such trivial matters. That's what I earnestly wished. I decline. I'm not saying you have to do it right away. It's fine if you find a new job and then decide. You don't have to make a decision immediately, but please at least consider moving away from your current workplace. Speaking with great composure, Haruka continued to refute my words. I didn't expect that I could get Haruka to make a decision right here. Even those who can say they're going to quit tomorrow are rare, and I wanted Haruka, who is surely doing her best with what's right in front of her, to be aware of the option of quitting. But the way she refused now, it was a complete and unambiguous rejection. Her rejection far exceeded my expectations, and my anxiety only grew. I understand that Naya-hama-kun is speaking completely logically and that he's saying this with genuine sincerity. I can feel the worry in every word and I truly appreciate it. But, however, it's impossible. If I take even one step back, it's all over for me. So, I can't accept that. What are you saying? Turning her face, which had softened somewhat just a moment ago, as cold as ice, Haruka demonstrated further detachment. But I couldn't comprehend the meaning behind it. She acknowledged my words as valid, but what does she mean? She can't even consider it. I'm truly grateful for your sentiments. But Naya-hama-kun, you don't understand my heart. No, there's no value in you understanding someone like me. Haruka, with a resolute expression, took her wallet from her bag and placed a 10,000 yen bill on the table. It was as if she was subtly signaling the end of this gathering. Thank you for inviting me today. I really enjoyed our conversation. Haru Shijun-san? With that, Haruka put on her coat and left the seat in a hurry. I instinctively raised my voice to call her back. The woman I wanted to save had left quickly, slipping through my fingers, and was heading back towards the path of ruin. TLN, go bro, damn. I messed up. Returning to my small apartment, I collapsed onto the futon, consumed by intense self-loathing. I was so inept, unable to handle it properly. I scratched my head violently from the stress. If she had just nodded back there, Haruka could have been saved. Why is she suffering so much and refusing to quit her job? In my frustration, I pounded the futon, still regretting the failure of my persuasion. After all, in this first-round world, Haruka and I don't get to meet that often. Making another opportunity to meet Haruka from here on will be quite difficult. Meeting, talking, and ultimately being decisively rejected. Haruka probably has nothing more to say, and I can't imagine her meeting me repeatedly in this state. No matter how much I rack my brain, one more meeting is probably the limit. One more time with one more contact, persuade Haruka to change her mind and quit the company. Is that really possible? But if I don't accomplish that, Haruka's destruction will be set in stone. My youth's revenge, born from a time leap, will meet its worst possible outcome. As an adult, Haruka will succumb to mental collapse according to fate, and the high school Haruka in the second round world will remain the same. Just thinking about it makes cold sweat pour out from every pore in my body. The core of my head throbs intensely, and tears threaten to overflow in the onslaught of despair. Is it impossible? In the end, I'm fundamentally an introverted, weak-willed guy like anyone else. Was it too audacious a hope for someone as average as me to become like the protagonist of a movie, sometimes defying odds to save someone they care about? Haruka, whether it was due to the disappointment or the threat of tension snapping, my body suddenly grew heavy. And then, due to fatigue, my consciousness gradually faded away. I fell into a deep sleep. I sat in my familiar classroom, in my usual seat. The classroom, bathed in the twilight, was eerily silent, with no one but me. A dream. In this lucid dream, I mumbled absent-mindedly. Yes, this was just a dream. Unlike the stark, barren space of yesterday, this scene was something I was very accustomed to. Had quite considerate to match the setting. Just a moment ago, I was an adult walking the streets in a suit. Now, I was wrapped in a school uniform, looking like I did at 16. But why a school? Could it be an expression of my desire to escape? The analysis of my own dream seemed to hit the mark. That's right. I want to return here. Coming to this second round, youth-filled school, seeing the sorrow disappear from both myself and the people around me, it made me happy. In the first round world, in this school where I just hid and waited for graduation, there were now irreplaceable memories filled with various joys. In all of those memories, Haruka is there. I really want to save her. But, if things continue like this, neither Haruka nor I, who care for her, can avoid destruction. I still haven't overcome this trial of time loops, as if I were collecting the price of a miracle. I'm too inept to dispel this despair. It's just filled with sorrow and helplessness inside me. But there's really no sign of anyone around. Even though it's my dream, it's kind of scary. Muttering an impression that no one will hear, I turned around and... That's right. But it's got a bit of a mysterious atmosphere, and I don't mind it. I turned to acknowledge the figure, and my thoughts went completely blank. Because, there, was the person I most wanted to meet right now. Long, glossy hair like silk, skin as fair as milk, and eyes like gemstones me beloved, with a pure heart akin to an angel. Haruka, in a high school uniform, stood there. Haruka? Haruka? Eek? My emotions ran wild, and without any shame, I rushed towards Haruka and held her slender body tightly. Even though it was said to be a dream, I could feel the definite warmth emanating from the girl's body. Just that alone told me that moisture was being brought to my parched heart. It's Haruka? Even if it's a temporary illusion, Haruka is right in front of me now. Shinichiro-kun? What's wrong? What's wrong? What do you think? I held her tightly, suppressing the sobs that threatened to escape. Since high schooler Haruka collapsed, I persistently visited her, seeing her face every day, a living semblance of death. I know this is a dream, but still, having cheerful Haruka by my side, calling me Shinichiro-kun, it fills my heart to the brim with joy. And so, I continued to embrace her for a while. You're already going to stop? Sorry. I got carried away and hugged you. Noticing that I was clinging to her like a child, Haruka looked at me with an amused smile, and following the rapidly rising shame, I released my hold on her. Seeing me like this, Haruka chuckled. Ahaha, even in a dream, Shinichiro-kun is quite the gentleman. No, even in a dream, suddenly hugging a girl isn't very gentlemanly. Such a familiar, casual exchange made me tear up involuntarily. That's right. I want to reclaim this. I want to make this warmth, not just a dream, but a reality that won't be lost. No, I was a bit surprised, but I wouldn't mind at all if it's you, Shinichiro-kun. More importantly, with a smile, Haruka suddenly wrapped her arms around my neck. The soft touch of her supple skin and the sweet scent of a young girl enveloped me, and even the vivid warmth that felt far from a dream was transmitted. Haruka? Shinichiro-kun, you seem really tired, don't you? While gently embracing me, Haruka began to stroke my head with her hands like whitefish, just like a mother would affectionately do to her child. Even in a dream, I can't just leave you alone when you have that expression, Shinichiro-kun. So at least let me do this. Haruka, who spoke kind words while bringing warmth to me, seemed nothing short of an angel. And so, with the compassion of an angel, my heart was filled with profound tranquility. The murky sediment that resembled black, turbid water seemed to turn into a clear, flowing stream. To bring Haruka into my own dreams and have her hug me, it's something I can't really tell the real her, but it really is soothing. Even if I do something like this on my own in a dream, I think I'm being a bit forward, but since it's a dream, it's fine, right? Suddenly, when I looked, even as Haruka held me in her arms, she had a mischievous smile on her face, something she rarely showed. To be honest, I've been wanting to touch you, Shinichiro-kun, for a while. As if doing something like this in her own room with no one around, Haruka began to confess something outrageous, her cheeks dyed a deep red. Lately, I've been spending more time with you, Shinichiro-kun, like when we're working part-time together, but somehow, I want to goof around and hug each other like girls do, and maybe pat your cheeks and stuff. Is it possible that this Haruka is mixed with some strange desire from my subconscious? Even though she's a character in a dream, it feels a bit strange. If I say something like this, it'll definitely be disliked by the real Shinichiro-kun, so this is just off the record for in the dream? No, even if you come out with it in reality, I'd be happy, not to mention disliking you. Is that so? Aren't you giving me answers that are too convenient for me, even for the Shinichiro-kun in my dream? For me, this Haruka is the character in my dream, but the person herself calls me a character from a dream. Somehow, it's truly a confusing and peculiar situation. Phew, but I'm glad I found you, Shinichiro-kun. It was getting a little boring being alone in this dream all the time. Saying this with relief, Haruka separated herself from me, pulling away from our close embrace. While I felt reluctant to let go of the lingering warmth, there was something more pressing on my mind. You've been alone in this dream all this time? Yes, that's right. At first, I found myself in a pitch-black dream, but then the scene suddenly switched, and it was like I was in a vivid movie. A vivid dream like a movie. This was exactly how I had described the dream I saw before accomplishing my second time leap. Moreover, it's got this really strange reality to it. Because it's set in the future, the townscape is completely different from now. And for some reason, everyone walking around has these flat, tablet-like devices. This can't be. In the midst of my intense confusion, a hypothesis formed in my mind about the situation unfolding before me. The reason high school Haruka lost her spirit was likely because information about the future's destruction was sent back to her in her high school days. In essence, it could be referred to as receiving future information. If that's the case, then is Haruka receiving memories of a future that's currently changing through her dreams? And, judging by everything that's happened so far, it seems like dreams are particularly susceptible to paranormal occurrences. So the Haruka here might not just be a character in my dream, but the real With a cold sweat forming, I turned to look at Haruka. Her innocent face didn't show any signs of realizing the extraordinary state I was in. She just found the long dream a bit peculiar. I see, it really is a weird dream. Yes, it's definitely bizarre. Even if it's my own dream, it was tough to watch. High school Haruka, in her school uniform, seemed to cloud up a bit as she talked about the future she had glimpsed. As an adult, I felt incredibly lonely, and even when I smiled, I wasn't really happy. It's both sad and somehow understandable. I could really become that kind of adult. Haruka. This Haruka doesn't know about that, but the adult Haruka, I could say with confidence, was the true history. The Haruka before me was veering away from that path, but she still judged her potential future self based on that. But I won't turn out like that when I become an adult? What? While she seemed melancholic just a moment ago, Haruka suddenly raised her voice and declared vehemently, I understand how painful it must be. I know it's even more excruciating than I can imagine right now, but to make such a despairing face and not ask anyone for help, I just can't comprehend it. That kind of thing is not cool at all. Although she was criticizing herself from the past, perhaps because it was herself, Haruka was angrily chastising the yet-to-be-seen future version of herself. Well, it was proof enough that this Haruka and that adult Haruka were walking very different paths. Hey, Haruka. About that adult version of you. Perhaps, this was a once-in-a-lifetime chance. As the thought flashed through my mind, I addressed Haruka. Why do you think she's so stubbornly rejecting suggestions from the adult me? She must believe what I say is correct, right? Well, that adult version of me must have gone through a lot, so her way of thinking is quite different from mine. To be honest, I can't give a clear answer because of that. Haruka said with a troubled expression, and that was only natural. After all, the me 7 years from now would be an entirely different person from who I am now. But if I were to describe it based on my impression, it feels like she's being driven by something. That adult version of me, despite being a working adult, seems kind of like a child trying hard to be an adult. Haruka's analysis brought enlightenment to me. Perhaps, it could be succinctly expressed as the adult Haruka's obstinacy. I see. If that's the case, then everything can be explained. All right. Yes. If this is correct, then maybe this time it'll work? Thanks, Haruka. Having found a breakthrough in our current stalemate, I couldn't help but pump my fists in celebration. All right, with this, a glimmer of hope is finally in sight. Shiny Chiro-kun. Just as I was cheering internally, Haruka's delicate voice reached me. When I turned to look at the girl, the brightness that was there just moments ago had vanished, replaced by an expression filled with anxiety. Shiny Chiro-kun, am I really a part of my dreams? Or rather, the things I've been seeing here, are they really dreams? It's different, isn't it? There's no way things like my reality where I lost my spirit, or you going to a future where you might never return, could be true, right? It's just a dream overflowing with my overactive imagination from reading too many light novels, isn't it? With an awareness of the excessive reality in her dreams, Haruka asked me, clinging to hope with a pale face. From the looks of it, she had rapidly started feeling a sense of incongruity with the current situation, perhaps triggered by our contact. It was as if she was waking up from a dream. There's no need to worry, Haruka. Everything will be back to normal soon. Without directly answering Haruka's question, I reassured her with a light smile. Or perhaps, I might not be in that return to normal daily life. If I think about it rationally, that possibility is far more likely. But hey, Haruka, if we ever meet in a place that's not a dream again, there's something I want to tell you. This time, properly. Well, it seems like it's about time for you to wake up. The view of the classroom gradually began to blur, and I was enveloped in the familiar sensation of waking up. It was a strange dream, but thanks to it, I felt revitalized, my weakened spirits rejuvenated. Now, all that remained was to think of a plan and execute it with all my might, just like usual. Wait, Shiny Chiro-kun? Wait. As the surroundings grew increasingly hazy, Haruka shouted after me. Haruka. I'm sorry for making you look like you're about to cry, but I have to go. To prevent this story that began with my death from turning into a sad repeat of the future. So please wait for me. I will definitely save Haruka's future. The last thing imprinted in my vision was the sight of Haruka, reaching out to me with a pained expression. With that image in my mind, my consciousness faded to black. Haruka Shishun, of my 3rd year as a working adult, returned to the apartment that I call home. In my family home, saying I'm back every day had become a habit. But now, living alone as a working adult, it seemed meaningless. Instead, as always, only the dark room welcomed me. I flicked the light switch and the room that was extravagantly spacious for just one person lit up. When I moved into this apartment to live on my own, my father insisted on giving it to me as a present, saying it was a property with top-notch security. But I really don't like this sort of thing, father. I muttered something that was definitely not praise to my father, whom I had distanced myself from a bit after graduating from university. Taking off my suit jacket and skirt, I collapsed onto the bed with just my shirt on. This bedding, the lighting, the curtains, the carpet, everything was a luxury item that my father had handed over to me. For someone who had only been working for 3 years, it was obviously inappropriate. I glanced at my smartphone and saw a message from my father. The content was the same as always, worrying about my health and how I was getting along. And, just like always, I replied with safe and unremarkable answers. I'm fine, I'm doing well, I'm getting used to the workplace. Yes, that's right, I'm fine. Father, there's really nothing to worry about. I whispered to myself, alone in the room, as if reminding myself. Yes, that's right. I'm just an ordinary working adult, doing an ordinary job. Even if it feels tough, it's normal. There's nothing strange about it. Because that's what's normal. As I recited this in my mind, suddenly, I recalled the words I had spoken earlier at the izakaya. What should I do? Or am I just being naive? Why am I always like this? Why did I say something so childish? I felt terribly embarrassed for letting out such a complaint to Nayahama-kun, whom I had just met after a long time. It's probably because of the alcohol. It's the first time I've relaxed and had a drink with someone other than my family. And also, Nayahama-kun was a good talker. He understood my subtleties as if we had been friends for a long time, and I could talk to him without feeling self-conscious. Nayahama-kun, he's become really impressive, hasn't he? He had said his workplace was the worst, but Nayahama-kun himself had changed so much that he was unrecognizable. Unlike his somewhat reserved high school days, he had become strong and articulate. And there was a kindness in him, caring for others. He took me, who he had just reunited with, so seriously. After entering university, I realized that I inevitably attracted men, being blessed with an appearance that strongly appealed to the opposite sex. However, it only led to countless troubles, and in the midst of it all, I developed a certain wariness towards men and a discerning eye for their motives. But, Nayahama-kun didn't seem to have any ulterior motives. Even though I always turned down invitations from men for the slightest reasons, at that moment, I couldn't suppress my interest in him. He didn't seem to be drawn to my appearance, and he focused solely on my inner self. I'm sorry. Saying that to him, who had almost begged me, I coldly rejected his proposal to quit my job. I felt sorry for him, and I didn't think his suggestion was wrong. His words about witnessing many severe cases at his black company carried a weight that wasn't just a passing thought. But, that's the one thing I can't do. That one thing, no matter what, I couldn't agree to it. No matter how correct it might be, I couldn't accept it. In this room, which, with my own salary, I shouldn't have been able to afford, I looked around at the overly expensive furniture. This room, it forced me to confront the fact that I was the daughter of a big company president, with privileges that I was born with. I can't quit. Because if I did, I would fall apart completely. The first thing I perceived was the room dyed in the orange hues of twilight, and the scent of books filling the air. Next, what reached my ears were the shouts of the sports club and the music from the wind ensemble coming from outside the window. Yet, neither of them was jarring, they rather emphasized the tranquil silence of the place I was standing in. The school library? In an adult lattice suit, I, Haruka Shizuen, was perplexed by this unexpected sight. I'm sure I was dozing off on my bed. A dream? It feels strangely vivid though. The lucid dream unfolding before me was rather peculiar. First, the details were extraordinarily intricate. Despite being memories of the library in my high school, which I graduated from 7 years ago, even the scratches on the desks and the titles of the lined-up books were vivid. Moreover, usually when I dream of my student days, I find myself back as a student. But now, I, in an adult lattice suit, stood in a corner of the library. Why am I dreaming about high school at this time? And why any good memories now? The sight of my alma mater didn't bring me any joy or interest. After all, my school life had been rather dull. There were no cherished moments stored in the album of my memory. I did it. I got all the answers right. And it's all thanks to continuing these study sessions. Turning towards the voice, there stood a teenage me dressed in a school uniform. The me from back then. Trying to be liked by others, yet not making much effort to be liked. The childlike me who was still innocent, believing everything would be solved in the future. And, oh, great job, Shizuen-san. You're using the official badge perfectly. Hee, that's all thanks to you, Nayahama-kun. Thank you so much for teaching me every day. I was astounded by this unimaginable scene. There, wearing a school uniform, was the high school student Nayahama-kun. He seemed to be teaching me, who was wearing a yukata and working busily, offering octopus balls and drinks on paper plates to the customers. A takoyaki stall? I remember our class had a simple exhibit around this time. Dreams might be absurd, but the alterations were going too far, and I was left in dumbfounded amazement. The smell of takoyaki pervading the air, the elaborately decorated classroom, everything was so realistic it was as if this were reality. Yet it's strange. Even though it's this busy, I'm having so much fun. The me in the dream was sweating profusely, but she was laughing with genuine delight. It was as if she was fully enjoying this time, like a scene from a light novel I used to love. Haha, it really might be strange. Answering the mess voice was Nayahama-kun, wearing a happy coat and tirelessly making takoyaki. He too was drenched in sweat, busy with his work. I'm insanely busy and feel like I'm about to die, but I'm insanely enjoying it. The Nayahama-kun, who should have had a quiet personality back then, was also wearing a cheerful smile, seeming to share the same feelings as me. I felt like there was something I didn't know between these two. Again, the scene shifted. This time, it looked like a classroom during lunch break. Phew, it's finally lunchtime? I'm starving? Oh, that tamagoyaki looks super delicious, Haruka. Want to trade it for this boiled broccoli? No way, Mitsuki, that's an awful exchange rate. At least offer me some bacon-wrapped stuff. Spread before the me, who was supposed to always spend her time in solitude, were two female students who treated her very familiarly. Those two girls, we should have had no connection. I barely remembered their names, but I didn't have any memories of having lunch happily like this. In this supposed fabricated scene I was chatting happily, just like any normal girl, and I was left in astonishment at my own home. It was unbelievable, but there was Naya visiting. When I brought him home, father had shown a strong reaction to my male friend. However, somehow, Naya managed to gain a certain level of trust from father. And so, I invited him to my room for a tea party, wearing a contented smile. The sports festival. I, who should have had minimal interaction with the other girls, was exchanging many words with them during practice. Even after we lost due to my mistake, they offered kind words like, "It's okay." It was quite fun. Let the boys take over. This scene, too, I'm certain it's not in my memories. The summer sea, shimmering under the blazing sun. I wore a swimsuit that I believed I had chosen, and I reveled in the summer sea with many friends. Here, all of my ideal youth was condensed. Summer vacation, a scorching sun over the wide sea, intimate friends with whom I could talk without reservation. Together with everyone, there was a blissful time of savoring only the joy. What is this? The scenes shifting one after another were all things I didn't know. Moreover, they were cruelly real, not vague desires. Everything was different, like a parallel world from a science fiction novel. The most significant difference at the center was the presence of Naya. The Naya, who should have had a quiet personality, had become unbelievably strong in this dream. He always helped me, encouraging me when I was down, teaching me, realizing the cultural festival I envisioned, inviting me to the sea. Why? My voice, spilling out, was trembling. Uncontainable emotions were swirling in my chest, bubbling up. And then, another scene transition. I finally started calling him Shinichiro-kun with his first name. He, too, started calling me Haruka by my first name. Blushing with embarrassment, I smiled happily. Why? And then, another scene transition. I, who had started a part-time job, was deepening my confidence by working with adults. The time spent with Naya, who praised me, seemed very enjoyable. My world was approaching a seamless perfection without any gaps. In every scene of this world, which felt like my delusion, I was smiling. It was evident in that expression that being with friends was enjoyable, pleasurable, and comforting. Especially, when I was with Naya, there was a faint warmth of contentment, which particularly filled me. Why are you showing me something so beautiful? Without realizing it, I had returned to the initial Sineth library. I shouted at the dream that was too harsh. What is this? I wouldn't have turned out like this. To openly express fury towards my own dream was, even for myself, somewhat absurd. However, the wail born in my chest wouldn't disappear. Why are you showing me such an overly convenient delusion? Yes, indeed. As you say. What? Startled, I turned around at the voice from behind me. There stood the teenage me clad in a school uniform. It was Shinichiro-kun who changed my everyday life. It was as if God arranged it one day. He appeared to save me. In those eyes that gazed directly at me, there was a clear determination, and I intuitively understood that this wasn't a creation of my memories. Finally, things are becoming clear. Just like Shinichiro-kun earlier, the adult me in front of me now isn't a dream, but a reality. From my current perspective, the words of this girl, who could be described as almost childlike, didn't make much sense. However, her gaze directed towards me seemed full of pain. It was as if the very existence of me was, in a sense, profoundly sad. You, in a way, you're my ideal. No matter how tough things got, even from the perspective of the child I used to be, I think what you've managed to do is amazing. But, with an innocent appearance, I continued with a hesitant voice. The smile has disappeared from your face, now that you've become a capable adult. Why is she suddenly appearing and saying such things? So please, believe in Shinichiro-kun, who is trying to save you, and listen to his words. Denying everything about your life until now is really painful, but if you're not happy now, you need to reach out. Her words stirred up even more fury within me. This me and I are clearly entirely different beings. I can't believe she'd say something like that. What is that? I don't need salvation. I mustn't be saved. Desperately, I shouted so as not to be denied. Just being saved by others and indulging in peace is nothing more than being a mere child. Someone like you? I must be a presence that denies you? To be conveniently saved by someone who's just kind and strong? If I were to be saved, I must bring it about with my own hands. If I were to accept someone else's help, then the value of my existence would truly diminish. Yes, it's true that maybe I've been saved by others a lot. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with being saved. With a strength incomparable to when I was in high school, I declared her intentions without flinching at my shouted words. Besides, for us, who are full of flaws, trying to save everything about ourselves on our own is impossible. No, not just us, almost everyone is like that. So, anyone would rely on someone close to them to complement themselves? With the purity of a child, I conveyed strong words filled with conviction. It might be awfully cheeky of me to butt in without knowing the suffering you've been through. But, with her emotions laid bare, I shouted, as if pleading. The future you idealized probably wasn't like this, right? Her words struck deep within my chest. In this space where the heart was laid bare, it felt as if I was being pierced deep inside. I am trying to say something in response to the words filled with such pure and strong conviction. I realized that the scenery around me was gradually losing its form. Apparently, this extraordinarily strange dream seemed to be coming to an end. Please, understand Shinichiro-kun's feelings. As everything in the dream began to unravel and fade away, I continued to speak. Not for the me you don't know, but for the you who is undeniably alive right now. Finally, I heard her voice like that, drenched in sweat. I awoke to the morning sun streaming through the window, wearing only a shirt and underwear, or at least that's what I assumed. What a dream I had. Sitting up halfway in bed, I instinctively covered my eyes with my hands. The dream was vivid, as if I had walked right into a movie. Even in my wakeful state, it lingered in my memory. Is this the manifestation of my deep-seated desires for an ideal youth? If so, I was exasperated with my own indulgence. To dream so vividly of such a sweet and kind world, it felt like I was denying the hard work I was putting in now. Suddenly, the words spoken by my teenage self in the dream resurfaced in my mind. Those words, and the pained expression I saw on the adult version of myself. What could my younger self possibly understand? I grumbled as I felt discomfort from my shirt, sticking to my skin due to sweat. I needed to work harder, much harder. I needed a stronger version of myself, not salvation from someone else. No, I'm okay that dream, it's just that. But what if that dream came true? If I could have someone like the strong, kind, and dependable Naya Hamakan by my side, just like in that dream. Even though the past was unchangeable, if someone like him were with me, even now, comforting my lonely self. Realizing I was indulging in such fantasies, my cheeks turned hot with embarrassment. It made me recognize how much I longed for that youthful time in my life, despite it feeling foolish. What a foolish notion. The dream was probably just a result of meeting Naya Hamakan again. As if to reassure myself, I muttered in my head, and naturally, the image of the adult Naya Hamakan, whom I met yesterday, surfaced in my mind. I did behave quite rudely yesterday, didn't I? As I considered this with my sober head, I couldn't help but feel ashamed of how childishly I had acted. Naya Hamakan's words were genuine, without any ulterior motives. He genuinely cared about my situation. However, rejecting his proposal outright and leaving the way I did was impolite. While I was on the bed, drowning in self-loathing, a comical electronic jingled. The notification sound for messages on my smartphone chimed. Is it my father again? I sighed and reached for my phone, which I had left on the bedside table. However, what I found on the phone was different from my expectations. It wasn't a chat app, but rather a short message that could be sent with just a phone number. The sender's name was Naya Hamakan. Saturday morning. I, Naya Hama Shinichiro, was standing in an out-of-town coastal park in my best shirt and slacks. This place was a popular spot, not far from the bustling city, offering a view of the sea to visitors of all kinds, from couples to families. I didn't expect that I'd be able to arrange another meeting so easily. It's more than I could have hoped for. After waking up from that strange dream yesterday, I decided to take action to reconnect with the adult version of Haruka. However, the journey ahead seemed challenging. We hadn't exchanged chat app contacts, the common way of building connections in this era. My attempt to get closer to her yesterday was met with rejection, and it was clear that our bond was now quite fragile. I decided to send a message to the phone number I found on the business card I got from the bar, where I apologized for my behavior. But the response I received was completely unexpected. No, I'm the one who needs to apologize for my terrible attitude yesterday. If possible, I'd like to meet in person to apologize. Surprised by this response, I quickly agreed. I never expected her to suggest meeting in person instead of settling things with a simple phone call. Well, it's typical of Haruka, being so serious and polite. As a last resort, I had also considered hinting at informing Haruka's situation to the Shishuan family. Most importantly, I'm glad I didn't have to resort to what could have been a threat. Informing the Shishuan family about Haruka's current situation, well, I do understand that it's the simplest and quickest way. If Tokimune-san were to learn about Haruka enduring such severe workplace harassment, he would undoubtedly separate her from the workplace without a second thought. And with no means for Haruka to resist, my objective would be achieved quite easily. But that probably wouldn't work. When I first arrived in this first week world, I thought simply keeping Haruka away from harassment would save her. But now I can't help but feel that it won't solve everything. However, I can't do that. If I take a step back, it's all over for me. I can't accept that. What comes to mind is Haruka's clear refusal. Her words carried a resolute will, acknowledging my wish for her to quit but firmly stating her own determination. Haruka, she's carrying something hardened within her heart. It's not just because she's too serious that she endures the harassment, but also because of the strong feelings in her heart that won't let her escape. A sense of impatience, or perhaps even obsession, seems to bind her. Unless I can dissolve it, the internal factors leading Haruka towards her own destruction will remain. Regardless, this is almost the last chance. It might be best to think there's no turning back from here. The pressure bearing down on me feels like it's constricting my organs. Strangely, though, there's no overwhelming sense of urgency or anxiety. I guess it's because I had such a nice dream. Haha, I'm really a simple guy, thinking that talking to Haruka in a dream would restore my energy. As I chuckle at myself, suddenly, I've kept you waiting, Naya Hamakan. There stood the adult Haruka, dressed casually. The first thing that caught my eye was her blue maxi skirt. Its buttoned design covered her legs entirely, enhancing the image of a modest adult. There was an air of purity and modesty about it. The top was a fluffy white vertical sweater, snugly highlighting her body, which had become fuller since high school. It was, well, quite captivating. Including the bag she was carrying, her outfit was subdued, avoiding extravagance. yet, it accentuated Haruka's charm as an adult. "Oh, no, I just got here too. I apologize for making you come out. What's wrong? You look a bit red." Well, to be honest, this is my first time meeting a woman like this. I'm not used to it. In truth, in the second chance world, I had met up with Haruka many times. But it was genuinely my first time in this adult state, so it wasn't a lie. Hihi, I'm quite similar. I don't have anything flashy, so I was a bit indecisive about what to wear. I'm not sure how she interpreted my fluster, but Haruka chuckled with an amused expression. That spilled smile was just like in high school. She's more gentle than I thought. It's true that she genuinely wanted to apologize for last night. Haruka Shizun was a person who held an excessive sense of decorum. However, considering the somewhat confrontational moment we had after that fight, I didn't expect the atmosphere to become this cheerful. I suddenly realized that Haruka was sending furtive glances towards my face. Her eyes seemed to hold a strong interest. Is there something on my face? I did my best to tidy up, but... Oh, no, it's just that the feeling is just like in the dream. No, not like that, but it's just that your atmosphere has really changed from high school. I see. Well, it's true that compared to back then. Certainly, even if I, a 25-year-old office worker, were to meet Haruka like this in the second chance world, I wouldn't be able to speak so lightly. Right now, what's giving me strength isn't just the regret of a lifetime that ended in the worst way possible. The happy days I spent with Haruka in the second chance world are also adding fervor to my heart. In any case, I left the meeting place up to you, but this is a really nice place, isn't it? Haruka looked around in amazement. This coastal park was spacious, with enough room for cafes and barbecue spots within, and it was rich with greenery. It seemed like she really liked the atmosphere. Yeah, my family and I came here a long time ago. Since we're here, should we take a little walk? Yes, that sounds good. Shall we? It's truly wonderful. Surrounded by lush, green trees emitting a fresh scent, we were making our way towards a hill on the south side of the park. Haruka seemed more relaxed than I expected, enjoying the sight of ducks bathing in the pond and the fragrance of well-tended flowers. But it surprised me. When I contacted you to apologize for last night, you turned around and said you wanted to apologize instead. I genuinely felt my behavior was rude and needed reflection. In times like that, one should definitely offer a proper apology. You're really earnest. That's very much like the Shizun I know. Is that so? Was I like that even in high school? Yeah, you were. Serious, a bit absent-minded, but kind to everyone. That's the kind of girl you were. Is that so? When I gave my honest impression, Haruka turned her face away, looking a bit embarrassed. Oh, maybe I was too honest, approaching this conversation with the attitude of dealing with high school-era Haruka. As we talked, we stepped onto the hill, the most popular spot in this seaside park, and began to climb the long staircase. Gradually, the scent of the sea mingled in, and the trees around us started to disappear. Then, at the top of the long staircase, wow, Haruka let out a cheer at the sight before us. What stretched out before us was an endless expanse of azure sea. Today, the weather was favorable, and the sea, illuminated by the brilliant sun, sparkled so much it was overwhelming. It's beautiful. Gazing at the sea with a look of longing and admiration, Haruka seemed like a child being taken to the sea for the first time. I've experienced it myself, but grand natural features like mountains or the sea resonate with adults. The beauty of such a vast scale not only highlights the insignificance of humans, but also heals our worries, reminding us that our troubles are small in the face of nature. It's strange. Even though it's a view I could have seen anytime for some reason, it feels so beautiful that I want to cry. That's good then. Since you're probably tired every day in the concrete jungle, I thought seeing a view like this might help you relax a bit. I'm relieved you feel that way. The idea stemmed from my experience of going to the sea in the second loop. Adults, fatigued by society compared to when they were children, find solace in nature. I've felt that firsthand. You've become really good at considering others, Naya-hama-kun. It's quite nostalgic for me as someone who knew you back then. Your way of saying that makes it sound like we're long-lost relatives or something. Haha, but, Naya-hama-kun, you've truly become cool. I can vouch for that. Perhaps due to the brilliance of the sun and the sound of the waves, the adult Haruka let down her guard and showed the most gentle smile she had so far. Just seeing this smile, it would seem like she didn't have any problems at all. However, thank you for meeting me again today. I'm sorry for suddenly intruding with meddlesome things yesterday. No, as I conveyed in my message, I'm the one who should apologize. As I broached the main topic, the cheerful smile faded from Haruka's face, replaced by that sorrowful shadow I saw yesterday. She had returned to that face I disliked so much. I understood that you, Naya-hama-kun, were genuinely concerned about me and spoke with great conviction. Yet, in my thoughtless reflex, I not only rejected you outright but also left the scene. It was truly impolite behavior. From my perspective, it's not something to apologize so profusely for, but Haruka lowered her head deeply in apology. This aspect of her is truly characteristic of Haruka. But even so, I cannot accept Naya-hama-kun's proposal to step away from work. With her head raised, Haruka's previously gentle expression now seemed incredibly cold, overshadowed and utterly impassive. It was as if she was saying there was no room for negotiation. The reason I proposed meeting with you directly today is twofold. First, I thought we should meet face to face so I could properly apologize for yesterday. And second, to reiterate that I cannot accept your proposal, Naya-hama-kun. Speaking as if that was the main point, Haruka spoke fluidly. There was no emotion in her voice, just a matter-of-fact tone. You must have seen people truly crushed by their work, Nayahama-kun. That's why I understand that you listened to me and were deeply concerned. Haruka looked at me with eyes filled with cold determination. It was as if she was saying, I don't need your goodwill or concern. However, I am fine, and I have no intention of changing who I am now. So, Nayahama-kun, you don't need to allocate any more time to me. I wanted to make it clear by meeting face to face. Though her choice of words was polite and orderly, it was an even more definite rejection than yesterday. It was a declaration of disconnection, saying there was no further room for discussion on this matter. I see. I understand what you want to say. To say I wasn't shocked by this declaration directly opposing my purpose would be a lie. However, I composed myself, feigning calmness, and responded quietly. I knew this was Haruka's stance. The problem is what to do from here. I'm quite familiar with Shizune Haruka. She's natural, dead serious, self-punishing, and has a gentle aura but a strong will. So, getting flustered and trying to convince her strongly here would be a bad move. I misunderstood. Huh? Haruka showed a puzzled expression, unable to read my intentions. However, I continued regardless. When I first saw you in high school, I was shocked. You were beautiful, kind, and to top it off, the daughter of a company president. I was astounded that someone could be so blessed by the heavens. What? Upon hearing my genuine first impression, Haruka groaned in embarrassment. It wasn't an attempt to flatter her, but a genuine feeling. At that moment, I truly believed I was in the presence of an angel. So, I positioned her as someone almost divine in my mind. The scenery I saw with you was so bright and the world seemed so rosy. That's what I thought. Back then, I measured the world based on simple specifications. Beautiful people, geniuses, athletes, their lives seemed to shine just by existing. I wholeheartedly believed that. But now, I'm convinced that was a colossal mistake. Not just me, but probably almost everyone around our age and in the Shizune family must have been mistaken too. Even those girls who had tormented Haruka since childhood must have harbored feelings like it's unfair for the princess who monopolizes this beautiful world. People tend to believe that the privileged have it easy. With that conviction I thought, even though you acknowledge my proposal as valid, why do you still consider quitting work such a taboo? What reason could there be for you to keep working, even keeping your current situation from your parents? In the dream, the high schooler Haruka had evaluated my adult self and said, a child who wants to become an adult and is trying too hard. If that perspective was correct, what did Haruka envision as this adult she yearned to be? Reflecting on Haruka's personality and the behavior of the adult Haruka, there was only one answer. Haruka, you believe you're a person without worth, don't you? Haruka's reaction spoke volumes. She stood frozen, visibly shaken, not moving an inch. This sentiment was something everyone grappled with to some extent. There were few who could confidently claim to have completely become adults. But in Haruka's case it likely ran much deeper. It had become a curse eating away at her. Then what am I supposed to be? In response to me probing into her inner world, a voice tinged with anger reached me. It was an exceedingly rare occurrence, Haruka's voice, unsettled and leaning towards negative emotions. Yes, that's right, I'm a person without value. I genuinely believe that. Of course, if I were to say that, everyone would deny my words. Almost self-mockingly, Haruka smiled with a sad expression. Everyone says I'm blessed. Yes, that's true. But it's simply something I was born with. It's not my own worth. Deepening her self-derision, Haruka smiled faintly. I always wanted friends. But it never happened. With a voice steeped in sadness, Haruka began to speak. In elementary school, in middle school, in high school, in university, everyone else could achieve it effortlessly, but I couldn't. Every girl, no matter how close I tried to get, always kept their distance because there's nothing appealing about me on the inside. I knew just how much Haruka had longed for friends in the second world. That's why, hearing this anguished cry from the adult Haruka, it was painful to listen to. There were so many things I wanted to do, but even when I mustered the courage to try, the class and the clubs felt awkward with me around, and it never went well. In the end, all that's left are colorless youth without a single happy memory. It was a lament no different from the ordinary sadness of an everyday introvert like me. Who would have thought that an angel, who everyone believed to be blessed and untouchable, also yearned for a place in the sun just like us shadows? I wanted to be normal. To make friends normally, enjoy school life normally, revel in a typical youth. But no matter how much I psyched myself up, I never got anything. Not for 20 years and more. I could sense this sorrow even from the Haruka of the second world. She wanted friends and memories of youth, and by obtaining them, she solidified her self-esteem and inner strength. But in this first world, Haruka had grown up without any of that. She had deepened her despair, believing that she, who should have been normal, couldn't even attain a fragment of it. Someone like me, who can't grasp what they want, is somewhere wrong. There's something missing. I truly hate myself. So you fixated on being an adult. Yes. Haruka's eyes were faintly moist. Tears welled up, awaiting the curse she would unleash in the heat of her emotions. I tried to become a proper person who works earnestly and contributes to society. Even if I, who's empty inside, could at least become a respectable adult, I thought I might come to like myself a bit more. Even if I couldn't navigate life well, I thought I could become someone, something, that could exist anywhere. As if this alone were her salvation, Haruka shouted. If I lose even this, then I truly have nothing. Even if I face hardships as an adult once I run away, this cowardly and slothful me might end up depending on my overly kind family and might never summon the courage to try again. Being an adult required a role. If you ran away from the difficulty of that role even once, you weren't an adult. The adult you weren't, didn't even possess the last remaining shard of value. It was a thought I too had harbored to some extent. The fear of becoming something, someone, of value that was also one of the reasons I couldn't quit my corporate job. So, I can't quit my job. Because I'm going to work now, I can barely forgive myself. If I run away even once, unable to contain the self-loathing that had swelled to its limit, Haruka shouted. This was what she had carried in her heart. The already self-punishing girl had let these thoughts fester until she reached this point. It was painfully poignant, but, honestly, I can't just stand by. Honestly, I can't stay silent anymore. Springing forward towards Haruka, tears glistening on her cheeks, I began. I understood the feelings of the adult Haruka. However, every bit of it was unbearable to hear. I understand that you were feeling cornered, but what's with this talk? Saying you have no charm, no value, that's just not something I can let slide. But that's the truth, isn't it? Because I'm uninteresting, I couldn't make any friends, nothing ever went right. What a load of nonsense. My voice, fueled by anger, left Haruka stunned. But honestly, I couldn't contain myself. To belittle Haruka, the girl I love the most in the world, even if she herself did it, I just couldn't allow it. Alright, I'm going to list out all of your good points. So brace yourself. Haruka, still with moist eyes, now tinged with embarrassment, stammered. But it was too late. I had to keep going. I'll start with how kind you are. Even to a gloomy, introverted guy like me, you'd speak kindly without any bias. In a school where most students would look down on someone like me, you treated everyone equally. You were practically a saint. I remembered those scenes from our high school days where Haruka and I were both library committee members. This girl, with all the traits that society admires, never once looked down on others. She exuded warmth. Your thoughtfulness is astounding. You'd spend time tidying up the library books, considering the next person would pick them up. Even during cleanup or any other committee work, you'd give it your all for someone else's sake. And yet, you gain nothing from being so meticulous. Even when she began to get lost in her own problems, Haruka never forgot her kindness and consideration. She believed that doing something for others was a good thing, something she naturally understood. Your purity allows you to find joy in the simplest things. Just finding a beautiful flower on the roadside or enjoying a convenience store snack would light up your face, and seeing that makes me happy too. Hama? Haruka, still with glistening eyes, timidly spoke up. But I'm not done yet, Haruka. I've barely scratched the surface. You're incredibly diligent and hardworking. No matter how difficult something is, you'll put in the effort to overcome it. I really admire that. And you have this knack for being both airheaded and clumsy in a charming way. Watching you, I feel all warm and fuzzy. And, above all, your smile is beautiful. It's like the beauty of your heart blooming into a flower, captivating anyone who sees it. Wait. Please wait. Embarrassed and reddening, Haruka interjected. But she's not getting away that easily. I've always watched over this girl named Haruka Shijuan. Especially in the second round, unlike the introverted high school days, I was overwhelmed by the charm of the angelic girl before me. And now, the adult Haruka standing in front of me, at her core, hasn't changed at all. She's just struggling with herself, still the same as back then. That's why I can't accept it. That the beautiful existence known as Haruka Shijuan is being denied by none other than herself. It's not because Shijuan-san lacked any charm that she couldn't grasp anything until now. It was simply a lack of opportunities, a mismatch of gears. You said Shijuan-san isn't ordinary, but this is normal. It might vary in degree, but everyone experiences this feeling of inadequacy at some point. This is a completely assured statement. Because I knew the Haruka who made friends and enjoyed school life. A person who had no charm from the start couldn't possibly seize the youth they wished for, no matter how much I intervened. So please, believe in yourself. My words, bursting with heartfelt fervor, were more desperate than I realized. It really ticks me off and breaks my heart that you'd blame yourself so much, Shijuan-san. Please, just stop it. Nayahama-kun. Before I knew it, my eyes were brimming with hot tears. The fact that this incredibly charming Haruka was cursing herself so vehemently, it was painfully sad. I couldn't help but let my emotions get the better of me. The girl named Haruka Shijuan is the most wonderful girl I've ever met. With a searing emotion welling up from the depths of my heart, I yelled with every ounce of my being. Haruka Shijuan stood frozen in astonishment. Nayahama, who had shown the most emotions since we reunited, displayed both anger and sorrow in response to my self-deprecating words. He affirmed my existence with a voice brimming with fervor. Nayahama-kun. I couldn't fathom why he was expressing such strong emotions. But in Nayahama's words, which dug up even things I had forgotten, I could only feel an overwhelming sincerity, filled with an intense passion. He was affirming me from the depths of his heart. To think of me like this. A tear formed in the cracks of my parched and shattered heart. The kindness directed towards me was so sweet, like a warm rain, soothing my yearning. Even I realized that my heart was responding to his words. In that instant, memories from last night's dream flashed before me. The scene, which should have been a mere figment born from my unconscious mind, where my heart warmed as Nayahama affirmed me, shook my emotions even more intensely. You said you were looking forward to the cultural festival with the whole class. So I'll ask you again. Would you exchange email addresses with me? So please, rest assured. I'll protect both that dream and that happiness. I promise I'll make you happy, Shishun-san. I'll be counting on you from now on, Haruka. Those were definitely not my memories. They were events that I hadn't experienced, mere products of imagination. Yet, the presence and words of the Nayahama before me resonated so strongly with the Nayahama in my dream that the sense of reality became hazy. It was as if the youth we spent together actually existed. Ah, yes, Shinichiro-kun always cared about me. For just an instant, I was flooded with emotions whose source I couldn't identify. It felt like the feelings of a stranger were flowing back, and incredibly ancient memories resurfaced. Before I knew it, I was shedding large tears. Why was my chest tightening so much? Why were sadness and joy mixing into this messy jumble of feelings? I had no idea. But there was one thing I was absolutely certain of, from the depths of my heart. He thinks about me. I stared at Nayahama, who seemed flustered by my sudden sobbing. He's shouting his feelings from the bottom of his heart that I have value. Even if only one person like that existed here, it filled the vast emptiness in my heart. In this overwhelming sense of being saved from the core, I wiped away my dampened cheeks. The future you idealized wasn't like this, was it? Suddenly, the words of my high school self from the dream echoed in my mind. It was a painfully accurate hit that I had tried so hard not to think about. If that's the case, what kind of future did I envision? I wanted. What I longed for. What kind of adult did I want to become? I wanted to like myself, no. Yes, in the first place. I wanted someone to strongly tell me that my inner self was likable. And by doing so, I wanted a life where I didn't hold on to self-loathing. Not from family or anyone close, but from someone outside that circle. I wanted them to genuinely affirm the inner me as an individual. To say, with unwavering sincerity, you, as a person, have worth. Even I find myself being so direct and earnest. The pitch-black mass that had settled in the depths of my heart was melting away. It was incredibly solidified, and Nayahama's words and the fervor contained within them, they were freeing my heart from years of torment. The need to continue being an adult, enduring pain to maintain my existence, it had disappeared entirely. I, Shinichiro Nayahama, was drenched in cold sweat. I poured out everything I had to say to the mature Haruka in front of me. She fell silent for a moment, then suddenly tears welled up as if she had been deeply moved. I panicked, thinking I might have messed up, but, do you think it's okay to be saved like this? Haruka, after wiping away her tears, looked like she had just exorcised a demon. While her emotions still seemed unsettled, the gloomy shadow that was there before was now nowhere to be seen on her face. Because of the words of the Nayahama I reunited with just yesterday, I'm trying to let go of something I've stubbornly held onto. Is it really the mark of a true adult to change their beliefs so easily? It's definitely the right thing to do, I asserted immediately. I've been living foolishly for so long, I can say that with confidence. If what I've been doing is in the wrong direction, then no amount of effort will do any good. So, it's important to think if the path you're walking now is the right one. Otherwise, when you fall into a pit, you might never get out. Yes, I can see it now. The world looks so different from just a while ago. Feeling this bright and clear, I can truly feel that it's right for me. With those words, Haruka beamed with a smile. There was no shadow left, and her radiant smile was like a sunflower blooming under the sun. Her beautiful smile, unchanged from our high school days, there it was. As Nayahama-kun said, I'm going to reevaluate how I've been living. I'll talk to my parents properly and start walking in the direction I truly desire. I was overwhelmed with relief, convinced that the adult Haruka had been completely liberated from her curse. Thank goodness, I mean, really. Nayahama-kun. I suddenly realized that Haruka was standing right in front of me, displaying a bright smile with her perfected beauty. Wow, she's still too beautiful, she'd stand out like crazy in a university or workplace. Having accomplished this mission that was far too challenging, I was finally released from tension, and I was purely captivated by Haruka's goddess-like figure. Until now, she had an air of a sorrowful widow, which led to a sense of pity taking precedence. But her childlike, bright smile against this adult beauty was unbelievably cute. Thank you, Nayahama-kun, for not giving up on someone like me. With a smile brighter than the surface of the sunlit water, Haruka voiced her gratitude. Tears, this time with a different meaning in her eyes, glistened, making her look even more lovely. At that moment, I burned this scene into my memory. Suddenly, my vision blurred and my footing became unsteady. It was like I was underwater, enveloped in a floating sensation. I see. Although I was surprised, it was something I had expected. In other words, it's over. My role is finished. I had completed my mission. Even this time leap, which was based on nothing but speculation and my hopes, seemed to have been the right choice given the current situation. I couldn't see or hear anything anymore. In the midst of my perception fading, even self-awareness becoming vague, a sound, like the ticking of an old clock, echoed in my mind. Was once again in that dream, a space that felt like drifting in the universe. As if underwater, I had a sensation of my body slowly rising from the ocean floor to the surface. But I could only barely perceive that much. I couldn't tell if I was awake or asleep, standing or sitting. The name Nayahama Shinichiro was so vague that I could hardly recall it even after some thought. I wonder what's going to happen to me. I pondered it hazily. Right now, I was in an extremely unstable state, where everything was unclear. Haruka. In my current state, which was beyond human understanding, I could only think of one girl. Did I really accomplish what I was supposed to do? Did I prevent the disaster that loomed over the adult Haruka, and save the high schooler Haruka from her negative time leap? No, calling it a negative time leap isn't accurate. That was an influx of memories that belonged to the Haruka who suffered mental breakdown in the future of the first world into the high schooler Haruka, a one-sided phenomenon. It's more like a time influx. It's completely different from a time leap like mine, where my memories and intentions from the future were inherited and fused. As I murmured to myself, I suddenly realized, where I was floating right now seemed to be a rather high degree of science fiction space akin to the Akashic records, where I had access to knowledge that should be unknowable. Ah, I see. So that's how it is. In the midst of my vague existence, I continued to acquire knowledge that I shouldn't be able to know. Why did I, of all people, get this miracle called time leap? There isn't anyone who has the power to time leap me twice, an entity with godlike powers. In conclusion, there wasn't anyone like that. A time leap is just an adjustment carried out by the world system. It was quite astonishing, but in this world, there is a power, a kind of fate power, if you will, that allows living beings to bring about a better future. This is not about luck happening frequently, it is a power that can bring the desired future closer through strong wishes. Time leap was something I knew about, but this world is more fantastical than I imagined. Well, even so, it's not easy for it to interfere with reality, so it's almost meaningless unless you have exceptionally strong destiny, I guess. My destiny power was slightly below average, and it seemed I was born under the star of an ordinary person. How sad. Nevertheless, except for me, people usually have that kind of thing, which isn't accessible to miracles. However, very rarely, someone with a fate power so extraordinary that they could only be described as being loved by the heavens would appear. The power of wish fulfillment that breaks through all difficulties, who can be described as a reliable ally or savior when they appear in a pinch. Surprisingly, good miracles don't often manifest in the form of flashy supernatural phenomena. They often appear in a practical way, like calling on a highly competent ally or savior. Actually, the President Toki Myun talked about the savior story when working part-time. It's about that sort of thing. Only a direct descendant of the Shishun family could have a family so desperate and on the brink, and a person with the power of destiny might appear and save the family. He joked about it, but he probably never thought that his wife was directly exerting a mysterious power. Haruka's mother, Akiko Shishun, had two strong wishes when she was young. One was a wish to save the struggling Shishun group, which she was concerned about at the time. The other was a passionate desire like something out of a shoujo manga to meet her ideal person and be joined in a loving relationship. As a result, Akiko and the Shishun family's business genius, known as Toki Myun, were paired, and they had a dreamlike happy ending. Of course, Akiko wasn't aware of this. With the change of generations, the next child, in other words, Haruka, inherited the blessing of destiny. Therefore, normally, Haruka should have been able to overcome any adversity and do as she wished. However, Haruka was too serious. From a young age, she had avoided relying on her family's power and wealth, unconsciously rejecting gaining anything through dishonest means. Even if you're a favored existence in the world, fate won't work unless you deeply wish for it. Therefore, whether she wished for friends, admired a brilliant youth, or desperately wanted to work healthily at her workplace, none of it brought her any relief. And then, after eventually collapsing mentally and becoming like a doll, in the depths of her unconscious, Haruka wished through tears. She didn't want such a foolish ending she had arrived at. She wanted a warm way of living where she could laugh with friends, and be close to the people she cherished. To that wish that regretted her entire life, fate responded. However, it was already impossible to save the Haruka who had already reached destruction. So, fate came to a conclusion. If the future of Shishun Haruka was already closed, then, to reach the future she desired, the past should be altered. Terrifyingly, for fate, time leaps were not considered cheating, even though they were significant events, and there seemed to be many similar incidents in history. And in this case it was judged that it would be more appropriate to send someone who could change the fate of Haruka into the past, rather than time-leaping Haruka herself. And the elements required of that person. Being extremely eager for a fresh start in the past. Having the experience and knowledge to guide Haruka's future in the right direction. And above all, genuinely caring for Shishun Haruka. All of this was fulfilled by a man named me. All the time leaps weren't for someone like me, they were happening for Haruka. And that attempt succeeded. The theatrical figure known as me, sent back to the past, rapidly eliminated the factors leading to Haruka's destruction, and the world began to move towards a future without ruin. The first world that led to a future of destruction was now considered to have never existed, and the second world created by altering the past became the official history that was the plan fate had devised. However, a significant problem arose. The adult Haruka from the first world rejected salvation from others more stubbornly than fate had anticipated, to the extent that she deflected interference from the world. As long as Haruka herself, who possessed a strong fate power, denied convenient salvation, the second world couldn't overwrite the first world and become the official history. It was like trying to overwrite data with bugs with a revised version of the data, but the data with bugs refused to be overwritten and caused an error. As a result, the first world and the second world, which couldn't become one, completely split. In this state, even if the second world's Haruka was saved, the first world's Haruka would still face destruction. Fate, realizing this situation, seemed to be at a loss because it hadn't been able to carry out the task it had set for itself. So, it resorted to a terribly rough method. In other words, it planned to send me, who had successfully altered Harika's past, to the first world, and have me save the Harika of the first world. The procedure was as follows. First, I would send memories related to the mental breakdown of the first world to the high schooler Harika, pushing her into a state of pseudo-mental breakdown. It was already incorporated that I would realize that the only way to resolve this was to save the adult Harika of the first world. Then, I would give myself a strong motive to save the first world and time leap. I vaguely realized it too, but fate didn't respond to my prayers. Everything was set up from the beginning. Really, fate is just like a black company boss, using me without any explanation. Moreover, not only did it go according to its plan, but whether I could save the adult Harika was quite a gamble. Complaining to fate, which was beyond human understanding, was pointless, but it left a strong impression of being a crappy system that would resort to tactics like taking the high schooler Harika as a hostage, and despite seeing through time and space, the plan was sloppy. Well, it doesn't matter now. If both Harikas ultimately avoided ruin, there's nothing better than that. That was the only thing that was most important to me. I want Harika to smile. I want Harika to be happy. If a modest but warm future, just as she wished for, comes to pass, then I don't care how many times I'm time-leaped and used up. Or perhaps this heavy feeling is the qualification to save Harika, I thought with a wry smile. Well, I wonder what will happen to me. That much, even with the knowledge I gained in this place, I didn't know. Where will I, who have completed all my tasks, go? Or will I be deemed no longer needed and disappear like this? Well, if I can return to that world where I had my youth revenge. If I can go back to that place where the most precious person to me exists. Now that everything is over. When I thought about that, my consciousness suddenly became muddled and my self-definition became even more ambiguous. The moment I realized that the time to stay in this space had ended. The existence called me vanished from that place. Waking from a doze, the first thing I registered was the familiar ceiling. As I looked around, still not fully conscious, I saw a study desk lined with textbooks and a shelf holding light novels and games. My childhood home, my room? I muttered, my impression akin to the first day of my initial time leap. I tried to clear the fog in my head. Somehow, it felt like I was in a peculiar space just a moment ago, where I seemed to comprehend all the laws of this world. No, more importantly, what day is it? Panicking, I found a mobile phone on the study desk and checked the date. High school, second year, the day after I visited Harika, and I nervously opened the photo folder on the phone. If there were no photos, I would be filled with anxiety, but they're here. Tears welled up in my eyes as I joyfully exclaimed. Inside the open folder were many photos. There were pictures of me, Mom, and Kanako gathered around a plate of takoyaki, pictures from the cultural festival filled with excitement, and a photo taken with the guys after the sports festival. And pictures of Harika when she stayed over at my house, a photo taken by Kanako of Harika and me dozing on the sofa, and Harika in a swimsuit, smiling brightly at the beach. All of these proved that I was in the second world where I had strived for my youth's revenge. I managed to come back. Although I had prepared myself for a one-way trip and faced the second time leap, it seemed I was allowed to return to this world once more. Whether this was a reward from destiny or merely a necessity to maintain temporal consistency was unclear. Ah, Ani-chan, you finally woke up? You've overslept by a lot, you know? Kanako. Hearing my voice, my younger sister Kanako entered the room. Somehow, it felt like I was seeing her face after several years. Kanako, hey, I still look like a high schooler now, right? Huh? What else would you be? You've been sleeping since morning because you were tired from Harika-chan, right? It's already evening, you know? Looking out of the window, the sky was already dyed orange. From Kanako's perspective, it seemed like I had gone to bed at night and, without getting up in the morning, had slept until this evening. Well, that didn't really matter. The most important thing for me was, wait, Ani-chan, don't start changing in front of your sister. Sorry, I'm in a hurry. I hastily discarded my pajamas and swiftly changed into casual clothes. Right now, I needed to hurry to the place I had to go. I'm sorry, but I'm going out for a bit. I don't know when I'll be back. Ani-chan, where on earth are you going at this hour? Kanako's voice, flustered by her older brother's strange behavior, reached my ears, but I didn't even have time to respond as I ran to the front door. Right now, I needed to meet the person who was more important to me than anything else. Pedaling fervently, I disregarded the limits of my strength and raced on the bicycle. I'm being cautious about safety, but my restless heart can't be stopped. I reached the Shijun residence, the place I was aiming for. Haha, my breath is ragged, but there's no time even to catch it. I find a spot to park my bike and immediately press the intercom at the main gate. Soon after, a familiar voice comes through the speaker. Yes, may I? Oh, Naya Hamasama? Why are you drenched like this at this hour? Huh? Ah. For the first time, I noticed the rain falling gently from the dim sky and the clothes slightly damp and heavy. Ah, it seems it's been raining. Anyway, please come inside. We can't leave you like this. I passed through the gate unlocked by the electronic lock and enter the premises. I was pushing myself to the limit to get here, so I'm quite exhausted. Nevertheless, I hurry through the long garden, reaching the entrance. Really, what are you doing, Naya Hamasama? It's gotten quite chilly this season. Fuyamai-san, holding a towel, busily wipes my clothes and hair as if she were an older sister fussing over her younger brother. I feel quite sorry. Thank you, Fuyamai-san. I'm terribly sorry for coming at such a late hour. No, it's not a problem at all, but really, what happened? Master and mistress have gone to the hospital to consult about Miss, so they're not here. Right now, it's just us housekeepers. Well, I tried to think of what to say, but I couldn't come up with a good idea. So, I decided to honestly voice what I wanted right now. I'm well aware it's very rude to come at this hour, but please, just this once, listen to my wish. Right now, no matter what, I have to go to her. Please let me see Haruka. I really want to see her right now. Naya Hamasama. I was so overcome with emotion that tears welled up. I bowed my head and earnestly pleaded. Seeing me like this, Fuyamai-san let out a voice tinged with sympathy. And I understand. Mistress instructed that no matter when Naya Hamasama comes for a visit, we should receive him. Normally, I would be turned away without a doubt, but it seemed that Akiko-san had already given her permission for my visit. The trust one had built with the people in the Shizuen household through my repeated visits seemed to be vouching for my existence at this crucial moment. Truly I'm grateful. Thank you so much. In that case, I'll take you up on your offer. And Naya Hamasama? After getting permission, I dashed towards Haruka's room, leaving behind a bewildered Fuyamai-san. Racing through someone else's house like this is a breach of etiquette, to say the least, but at this moment, I couldn't stop. Every cell in my body was screaming in wild anticipation. I ran to the place where I must be right now, to the place where the girl I need to see as soon as possible is. I've arrived. Since I had visited Haruka so many times, I quickly found my way to her room. Once I opened the door in front of me, she'll be there. On the night Haruka collapsed, I felt like my head was going to snap from the incomprehensibility and the sheer injustice of fate. When I learned that the once carefree girl had lost the ability to laugh or cry, it felt like the world was crumbling beneath my feet. But I managed to overcome that nightmare. Now, all I need to do is confirm Haruka's condition. But what if Haruka on the other side of the door is still in a doll-like state? I chuckled at the anxiety that had welled up within me. Even if that fear were to come true, my course of action wouldn't change. At that time I'll use time loops or whatever it takes to save her. If it's to save Haruka, I'll shout down fate, whether it's in the future or the past. I'll overcome any adversity and save the most important person to me. Because all I can do is run towards what must be done. I'm coming in, Haruka. With determination, I slowly opened the door to the room. And what greeted my sight was a dazzling twilight spreading beyond the window. The rain seemed to have stopped, and the sky, now devoid of dark clouds, illuminated Haruka's spacious room with an orange glow. And there, Haruka was. She was sitting quietly on a medical reclining bed with a backrest, dressed in pajamas. Her face was illuminated by the dawn light flooding the room, making it hard to see, but the atmosphere was terribly quiet. Even as I entered the room, there was no response. While soothing my agitated feelings, I slowly approached Haruka. As I got closer to the bed, the face of the girl I had longed to see little by little came into view. She looked a bit thinner, but her delicate features remained unchanged. I'm here, Haruka. Having come to Haruka's side, I finally looked at her with eyes accustomed to the brightness. However, contrary to my expectations, Haruka's eyes were staring into emptiness. There was no indication that she was aware of my presence. This sight sent a sensation akin to all the blood in my body freezing, but, suddenly, I felt a faint warmth and looked down to see a supple finger touching my left ring finger. Like a sleeping child seeking human warmth subconsciously. In front of my astonished eyes, Haruka's eyes moved slowly. Eyes that had lost focus, no longer pursuing anything, were now gradually finding their focus. And then, Haruka's mouth trembled ever so slightly. Shinichiro? Looking at me with a puzzled expression, Haruka called my name. In those eyes, she was looking at me. In the world she had regained, she recognized my existence. Haruka IAHH. I found myself clinging to the bed, tears streaming down. She's come back. From a fate too cruel and destructive, to a calm everyday life. To know that the person I cherish has regained her consciousness, and is calling my name, that alone fills my heart, and my tears refuse to stop. Too much crying, Shinichiro-kun. Gently, as if soothing a child, Haruka strokes my head, smiling warmly. Just this simple act feels so precious. The heavy emotions that had built up inside me are now illuminated by a blinding light. Haruka Aju-sama? Suddenly, a voice from behind. I turn around to find Fuyamai-san standing at the entrance of the room. Surely, she must have followed me. The beautiful housekeeper stands there, her eyes wide in astonishment and her body frozen. Fuyamai-san. Why yes. Oh, Aju-sama? You understand me? Seeing Haruka's recovery with her own eyes, Fuyamai-san breaks down just like I did. And of course she does. She must have witnessed the despair even more deeply, as she cared for the broken Haruka all this time. We can't stay like this. I must inform Master and Mistress of Aju-sama's recovery as soon as possible. And also, the doctor? Shinichiro-sama, please take care of Aju-sama for a while. After wiping away her tears, Fuyamai-san rushes away, determined to fulfill her duty as a housekeeper. That's right. After informing Akiko-san and Tokimune-san of Haruka's recovery, this incident that started with Haruka's collapse will finally come to an end. Truly, it's a relief. Haruka, are you feeling okay? This might startle you, but you've been like this for over 10 days. Yes, I understand. I had lost myself for a long time. Speaking with her head down, Haruka surprises me more than a little. Could it be that she understands what had happened to her, even though she hadn't spoken for 10 days? Shinichiro-kun, I had a long dream. A dream? For some reason, Haruka begins to talk with a serious expression. Her voice, which hadn't been used for some time, sounds a bit hoarse, but it's still far more fluent than one would expect after not speaking properly for 10 days. I was dreaming for a very long time, of a grown-up version of myself who was in great pain, and of an adult Shinichiro-kun who came to rescue me. Even when the adult me was being obstinate and treating him coldly, he never gave up. That means, remembering, I feel a cold sweat. What comes to mind is that strange dream I had in the classroom during my time leap. The Haruka who appeared then acted in a way that couldn't have been a product of my subconscious, so I had a vague feeling that that possibility was high. But if that's the case, does this mean that Haruka remembers what happened to me, and why I was led to supernatural events? In that dream, the grown-up Shinichiro-kun was you. Yeah, I nod firmly. I'd have preferred if Haruka didn't remember everything, but since she recalls it all, there's no helping it. In the dream, the adult Shinichiro-kun did his best to help me, even though I was being stubborn and distant. Wait. As soon as I answer, Haruka's gaze pierces into me. Why did you do something so reckless? Haruka asks, not so much seeking an answer, but almost blaming me. I find it painful to see her, tears streaming down her face, but as someone who acted recklessly, I have no choice but to accept her words. After all, ultimately, it was the enigmatic existence known as fate that led to my life's second time leap, but that's what I wanted. And of course, there was no guarantee I'd be able to come back. Even if I'd been broken, you should have just left me alone? What? Shinichiro-kun? You're kind, reliable, and truly wonderful? Haruka raised her voice, unable to contain her turbulent emotions. If such an amazing person, if their future with me was crushed because of me, even if I regain my sanity, it wouldn't be any comfort, would it? Do you think I can go on with my life, smiling, after you're gone, Shinichiro-kun? Her anguished cry condemning my ego pierced deep into my chest. If the roles were reversed, if Haruka were the one sacrificing herself for me, I would probably say the same. Why would you go that far? How did you become so strong and kind? In her agitation, Haruka's eyes brimmed with tears. Seeing her like this was truly painful. But I'm really sorry for making you feel this way, but I'll do the same thing over and over again. Because I've decided to. Decided? Haruka repeated my words in confusion, but it wasn't really such a big deal. It was just a guideline I'd set for myself in this current life. Yeah, both you and everyone at school say that I've changed so much, like a completely different person from before. But my essence is still dark and timid. Even when I was about to go to that faraway place, I was on the verge of tears with the fear that I might never come back. Looking back, my previous life was a life of avoidance, of not confronting the pain and fear in my heart, not facing it because it was scary, not continuing because it was hard, not doing it because it was bothersome, not starting because it was impossible anyway. That was how I diminished myself day by day. So, I'm not stronger now than before. The only difference is whether there's something I've decided I truly want. Not running away from what's necessary for what I really want. That's all. That was what I, who had been a passive salaryman, had held in my heart and run with throughout this second life, breaking free from that. So, for what I truly want, for the most important girl to me, I did what I could. For my real feelings. Shinichiro's real feelings? Haruka's face tinged slightly at my heartfelt words. Long ago, I fell in love with this girl, and by some miracle, we met again. As the radiant days passed, my feelings swelled, but I hesitated to put them into words. I had made a genuine decision to tell her someday, but the fear of rejection was immense, as my feelings grew stronger. But I won't run away anymore. I'll convey this feeling now, it's time. I love you, Haruka. I've loved you for so long. Words I'd wanted to say for so long. Feelings I'd kept hidden in my heart since long ago. I finally said them. It felt deeply moving, and as expected, from head to toe, I felt a burning heat surge, and I sweated to the point where my clothes felt heavy. I'm sorry. I actually planned to tell you this after you'd calmed down from your illness. In response to my confession, Haruka stared wide-eyed, seemingly lost in thought. I watched her, my face covered in cold sweat, unsure in which direction the shock she received was heading. Wait, Haruka? I found myself exclaiming in astonishment. Because, Haruka, her face frozen in surprise, had begun to shed large tears, flowing freely down her cheeks. I didn't. With tears streaming down her cheeks, the girl spoke as if desperately trying to sort out her emotions. I could only wait, watching in silence. I didn't understand love, I didn't know what it meant to like someone. Shedding more tears, Haruka continued, seemingly baring her heart. People say I'm childish, but it's not like I didn't long for love. It's just that, like the stars in the night sky, I knew they were beautiful, but they seemed far away, beyond my reach. In the room illuminated by the sinking sun, Haruka continued. But now it feels like the feelings I didn't understand until now are getting names and colors. Whenever I'm with you, I feel so safe. When we talk together, my heart leaps with joy. When I think about you, my heart always feels light and happy. At that moment, as well as the joy that seems to overflow from my heart right now, I finally understand their true meaning. My feelings for you just won't stop. Haruka continued to express herself with a rising sense of elation, and I listened as if in a dream. Is this really reality? Not just a convenient daydream of mine? I will say it too. Please let me say it. With tears streaking down her cheeks, Haruka looked directly at me. Shinichiro-kun, I love you. Truly, truly I love you. How do I respond to that? I can't put it into words. I can't think of anything. Everything within me, it all felt like an endlessly clear blue sky. Everything about my existence, it all felt like it was being saved completely. Please let me be your girlfriend? Before I knew it, I found myself leaning forward and embracing Haruka on the bed. I was overwhelmed with love for her, and I didn't know what to do. You hee. Though her face was flushed, Haruka quietly smiled as she gazed at me, who was right in front of her. I can tell even without looking. I must be making a completely ridiculous face, soaked in tears and emotion. I'll always hee. Touching each other all over, Haruka's fingers, delicate as a whitefish, gently caressed my head. I'm clumsy, but please take care of me. And so, Haruka smiled like the sun. Her beautifully pure heart bloomed, and I was so moved that I couldn't find any words. What I won in the end of my youthful revenge. The most precious thing in this world was right there in my arms. It was early in the morning, a time when I wouldn't normally be awake. Clad in my school uniform, I was restless in the living room of my home. What occupied my mind at the moment was, once again, a girl named Haruka Shizuen. It's been 2 weeks since that night. It still feels like a dream. My heartfelt confession had come to fruition, and Haruka and I were officially a couple. I had worked hard for this moment, but now that it had actually happened, it felt surreal. Every time, I would replay Haruka's response to my confession in my mind, just to reassure myself that it wasn't a dream. Shinichiro-kun, I love you. Truly, deeply I love you. He. The sensation of my heart melting, as if my brain was ascending to the heavens, was probably what might be expressed as heart-flattering or melting of a maiden's heart in shoujo manga. Lately, I'd been engaging in peculiar behavior, like rolling around on the floor with a goofy grin plastered on my face, which earned me pitiful glances from my family. Well, leaving that aside, today's finally the day Haruka returns to school. It took 2 whole weeks to get here, truly a joyous occasion. After the confession, Tokaimune-san and Akiko-san, who were out at the time, rushed back home, so I wisely made a hasty exit. Tokaimune-san and Akiko-san apparently cried their hearts out when they saw Haruka, who had recovered. I'm really glad the folks in that house could finally break free from the nightmare. Then Haruka promptly underwent examinations in the hospital, but there were still no clear causes found for her collapse, and she recovered without a definite diagnosis. At that point, it could be said that this incident with Haruka collapsing had come to an end. But her muscles must have weakened from being bedridden, so the rehabilitation period at the hospital was probably tough. Haruka seemed to be on the verge of tears when faced with the fact that she had to miss more school. It was genuinely pitiable, but there was no helping it. Well, it's finally over. Haruka really did her best. I've never experienced it myself, but it seems to be quite tough. Normally, a longer period of rehabilitation would be necessary, but the maids at the Shizuen residence provided extremely effective and devoted care massages to Haruka in her hospital bed, minimizing muscle atrophy. As a result, Haruka returned to her daily life quite early. And today, after a long while, Haruka would be donning her school uniform. I felt unusually fidgety. What's with all this restlessness, big brother? Kaneko. Turning around, there stood my younger sister, Kaneko, clad in her middle school uniform. She often referred to herself as a middle school heartthrob, and her perpetually adorable face now wore an expression of exasperation directed at me. You're going to school with Haruka-chan today, aren't you? I get it if you're excited, but there's no reason to be this unsettled. Indeed, the reason I'd been pacing around the living room since earlier was due to a cute request from Haruka in her message. Could you accompany me on my first day back to school? I'll come to your house by car. I promptly replied, of course, to this overwhelmingly adorable request, and today was the day we'd been eagerly anticipating. Well, I'm just nervous, since Haruka and I mostly communicated through messages after she was hospitalized. That night, I confessed to Haruka, and she accepted my feelings. It was a major event in my life, and I still doubted whether it was real. However, due to Haruka's hospitalization and subsequent rehabilitation period, we hadn't seen much of each other since then. I tried to visit her at the hospital, but it seemed like her parents wanted to be by their daughter's side as much as visiting hours allowed. I thought it would be best to respect that. Not only her parents but also the maids at the Shizuen residence and some elderly relative from the main Shizuen family came to visit almost daily, so the visiting schedule was apparently quite packed. So, as a result, we've reached the day of Haruka's return to school, without having done anything particularly couple-like. It's making me nervous. What on earth are you saying, big brother? At times like this, you just need to stand tall? At my agitated voice, Kaneko scolded me. It's the start of your long-awaited romantic relationship with Haruka-chan. Right now, the most important thing is to have a face brimming with joy. Well, I might even be more excited than you, big brother. As she said, Kaneko was beaming with delight from early in the morning. After all, when I had informed her 2 weeks ago that my confession to Haruka had been successful. Seriously? Seriously? Yes? A resounding cheer echoed through the house, and from then on, I was in an exceptionally good mood. For some reason, everyone seemed overly delighted about my love life success. Oh, man. That night when Big Brother came home with that dreamy look, and the news that Haruka-chan had recovered was already such fantastic news. But to think there'd be this big bang of good news with a successful confession on top of that? It's like having both the New Year and the Bone Festival at once, isn't it? Apparently, my love life was so entertaining to my younger sister, Konako, that she had been in high spirits ever since my successful confession. Upon hearing this news, my mother reacted with disbelief. You really ended up dating that young lady? Hey, Shinichiro, you're not misunderstanding something, are you? Just being polite? Well, the more you understand how aristocratic Haruka is as an individual, the more understandable it is for my mother to become suspicious. Well, Big Brother is a total newbie in love, so I get why he's all tense. But have some confidence. You worked hard, thinking about Haruka-chan, and you've finally arrived at this result? You got here because you're you, Big Brother? My sister, who had almost become estranged from me in my previous life, was genuinely affirming me in front of me. Her smile and words were pure and uncomplicated. Besides, Haruka-chan's response to your confession wasn't just a simple yes, right? She also said, I like you too, on her own, didn't she? That's the ideal response that wouldn't come out if it wasn't mutual. There's nothing to worry about. Is that so? That's right. You have a mission to bring Haruka-chan back to our house, Big Brother, so do it properly. I'm looking forward to it. I have so many things I want to ask, like what Haruka-chan felt when you confessed. Looking at Konako, who was all excited and leaving me, the person involved, behind, I couldn't help but smile wryly. I really came back. For the past 2 weeks, I had been elated by my successful confession to Haruka, but at the same time, there were moments when an inexplicable fear crept in. It was the fear that, having experienced the miracle of time loops twice, I had come to understand that reality was not an absolute and unshakable thing. Was this world I was in really the same as the one I knew? Would I eventually vanish like a bubble once my purpose was served? And, in the first place, was I really existing here now? I couldn't help but feel this anxiety, that the peaceful reality of now might vanish like an illusion in the next moment. On the contrary, it's probably better that Haruka's so-called future dream turned out to be just a dream for my mental well-being. The night when Haruka, freshly recovered from a mental breakdown, had been convinced that her dream had actually happened was still fresh in my memory. But by the next morning, that sense of reality had disappeared, and while she still felt a strong pull, she had settled into the recognition that it had been a very strange and realistic dream. The dream that had been so vivid upon waking seemed almost impossible to recall by the next day, but I thought it was better that way. There was nothing good that could come from remembering such an occult and absurd thing. It would only lead to unnecessary worry and mental distress. Well, no matter how much I think about whether this is a dream or reality, there's nothing I can do but accept it. But still, when I see Mom and Kanako's faces, I can't help but feel relieved. Whether this was a dream or reality, the value of the time spent with Mom and Kanako, with the smiles and happiness they had now, remained the same. Because I could think that way, I could continue walking in this world. Alright, thanks to you, Kanako, I'm starting to feel more settled. You're right. I'll believe in myself a bit more and have a stronger heart. From now on, I'll do my best for Haruka-chan. Yeah, that's the spirit. With a laugh, Kanako responded, and just at that moment, the doorbell rang. I knew exactly who would be visiting at this early hour, so there was no need to bother with the intercom. Oh, it seems they're here. Well then, I'm off. Make sure you don't be late too. Saying that, I slung my bag over my shoulder and headed for the entrance. And there, Big Brother? I heard Kanako's voice from behind. I've said it so many times already, but congratulations, really. Big Brother, who worked so hard for the person he loves, was seriously cool. When I turned around, Kanako was smiling, looking a bit shy. Her words, which were like a full-powered cheer, seeped into my heart. Thank you, Kanako. Well then, I'm off. With heartfelt gratitude, I headed for the entrance. Truly I'm glad I could come back. On the first day I time-leaped into this second iteration of the world, I left in a state of complete confusion. But now, I had adapted to this routine. And this routine, too, was evolving into a different, new form. At least for me, it was my first time welcoming a morning like this. Good morning, Shinichiro-kun. In the clear morning air, an angel's voice resounded. The girl who was most precious to me, Haruka Shijuin, was there. It had been about a month since I last saw Haruka in her uniform, but seeing her smile in that unchanged form filled my heart. Her glossy, long hair swaying in the wind, her milky white and soft skin, and her gem-like eyes that seemed to be made of pure innocence, everything about her was beautiful. Good morning, Haruka. Is your body completely better now? Yes, I'm perfectly fine now. Besides, today is finally the day I can return to school, so I'm overflowing with energy. Saying this, Haruka clenched both her fists tightly in front of her chest. I couldn't help but smile at this adorable display of determination. Also, at that moment, Haruka suddenly toned down her voice and her cheeks reddened. I've been looking forward to going to school together today. Even though I'm nervous, I'm really excited. Blushing and speaking bashfully, Haruka's words made me blush too. I realized that, perhaps, Haruka's confession was the first time someone had approached me romantically in such a clear way. Although our relationship had just started on this fresh new page, I could already feel an overwhelming love for Haruka. Well then, Naya Hamasama, I'll take my leave. Huh? And Natsuzaki-san? From the high-class car that brought Haruka, the familiar driver's face appeared, and I let out a surprised exclamation. Oh no, I got too focused on Haruka and completely overlooked the presence of a third party. Haha, it's fine if you're close even in the early morning. Please be careful getting in the car, and have a good time at school. Why yes. It seemed both Haruka and I had forgotten about Natsuzaki-san's presence, and we both hung our heads in embarrassment. Oh, by the way, though I'm a bit late, congratulations, Naya Hamasama. When I heard that you and Miss Haruka started dating, we, the Shijuan family members like me and Fuyamai, were all very excited. Well thank you. It seems that the news has already spread within the Shijuan family. Even though it's expected, it's still incredibly embarrassing. Anyway, I sincerely bless you. Well then, Naya Hamasama, please have a pleasant school life while maintaining decorum. With those words, Natsuzaki-san took hold of the steering wheel and drove away with the car. It really was a big fuss, wasn't it, the Shijuan household? Why yes I mean, how can I put it? It was like an endless stream of mother's excited cheers, the housemaids, and father's screams and shouts. I could easily imagine that scene, and I couldn't help but feel a little weighed down by the trials that would surely come my way soon. Well, when the time comes, it comes. As long as I properly explained that I didn't confess with light intentions. I switched my thoughts like that and forced myself to put on a calm facade, showing a smile. But I couldn't hide the single cold sweat trickling down my cheek. The 1 hour earlier commute than usual had almost no other students from the same school. The reason we were meeting and going to school so early was to avoid the eyes of our classmates. While we have commuted to and from school together before, meeting in front of the house adds a completely different meaning. We will eventually have to disclose our relationship, but for now, Haruka has just returned to school after her recovery, and I thought it would be better to keep it a secret to avoid unnecessary trouble until things settle down. Oh, it feels really good to be able to walk the commute route like this. As we felt the cold morning air, Haruka, who walked beside me, spoke with deep emotion. It felt like I was left behind by time during my hospitalization, but finally, I'm back. Both Fudahashi and Kazumihara, as well as everyone in our class, have been waiting. Welcome back, Haruka. Yes, I'm really back at last. With a truly happy expression, Haruka smiled without any hesitation. Being able to commute to school like this was surely a sign that Haruka had truly regained her daily life. Haruka, I'm sorry we couldn't meet during your hospitalization. Huh? No, it's not your fault at all. It's because my family and relatives came to visit me one after another. A lot of people from our main family, whom I barely know, also came to see me, and in the end, I was a bit tired. While offering some reassurance, Haruka complained about the relatives who had crowded her during her hospital stay. It seemed that Haruka was quite beloved by the Shijuan family's patriarch, grandpa, and that's why her relatives came to congratulate her recovery in droves. But since it's been a while since then, there's something I really want to make sure of. At that point, Haruka suddenly blushed and let out an embarrassed voice. It seemed difficult to say, but, so that is it possible that me and Shinichiro-kun becoming a couple was a dream? No, it's just that. Because when I was in the hospital, I was worried if such a convenient thing could really happen. I was so happy that you confessed to me like that and we became a couple, and that's why I got anxious. No, if it's a dream, I'll be the one crying. Please don't say such terrifying things. Haruka seemed genuinely frightened by that possibility, but it was more concerning for me, fearing that it had all been too convenient. If you're that anxious, I'll say it as many times as you need. I like you, Haruka. This isn't a dream or an illusion, and no matter what happens, I won't take it back. What? After shouting something so embarrassing and realizing it, I turned as red as a lobster. And hearing this, Haruka had a similar reaction. On the nearly deserted sidewalk, we both paused for a moment in embarrassment. My heart felt like it was going to explode, but hearing you say that made me feel so light and warm. After a brief pause, as if to cool down the heat, Haruka timidly said, but as I thought, because of that I was trembling in fear at the thought that it might be a dream. I didn't have the courage to ask you by email or phone. Haruka. I hadn't realized that she had such doubts, and I felt truly sorry. I had no idea she would take my confession to heart like that. Since when? Haruka, her face still red, asked hesitantly. I, on the other hand, smiled wryly for a moment in response to her question. Well, I began to truly feel this way around the time of the cultural festival, but honestly, I've had these feelings from the first time we met. Oh, really? Haruka looked surprised, with an unexpected expression. Well, back when we first met, I was a mumbly-voiced introvert, and Haruka was so naive she wouldn't have recognized a romantic feeling even if it bit her. I've said it several times already, but you're like an angel, so beautiful, brimming with kindness from the heart, making everyone feel cheerful with your radiant smile. From the moment I first saw you, you already had a tight hold on my heart. Well, what are you saying? You're praising me too much. I'm already so overwhelmed today, my head is steaming. I intended to convey the history of my affection, but Haruka, her face still red, protested because she was already at her limit. I feel so much better after saying all this. It's so nice to be able to tell someone you like what's so wonderful about them. However, saying such strong words made my heart feel light, and I started to feel warm again. Even though her face was still red, Haruka spoke with her hand over her chest. I see Haruka thought about me even during her hospitalization. Since I'd never been in a relationship, I didn't understand anything, but I just kept wanting to be with you, wanting to talk to you, more and more. With her hand on her chest, Haruka continued. So, I proposed this morning that we commute to school together. I wanted to be with you no matter what, Shinichiro-kun. Haruka. With her moist, shimmering eyes, Haruka came closer, and before we realized it, we were close enough that our shoulders touched. Her hair had the scent of shampoo, and my head was spinning so much that it felt like it was going to burst. In the clear morning air, we looked into each other's eyes for a while. Just being by each other's side, happiness continued to accumulate. Oh, while we stared at each other, I held Haruka's white, supple hand. It was what I wanted to do, and Haruka didn't refuse. She rather slowly interlaced her fingers with mine. Our body heat seemed to melt together. I'm new to dating and might make mistakes sometimes, but I was confident that my feelings for her could not be rivaled by anyone. So, I want to be with you forever. From now on I'll be counting on you as my girlfriend, Haruka. Yes? In response to my words, Haruka replied with a radiant smile. The time was lunch break. The gathering began at the crowded school cafeteria tables. Now then, I'd like to start this celebration of Haruka's return, organized by the beachgoers. Although she looked like a serious student council president, Kazumihara Mizuki, a super easygoing girl with glasses, commanded, and everyone, including me, applauded. Oh gosh, I've been wishing for a day like this, Haruka. It's seriously touching. Sniff, I'm really moved. Well, congratulations on getting out of the hospital, Shishun-san. Not just us here, but the classmates in our class were pretty worried too. The always lively Fudehashi Mai, with her short-cut hair, expressed her joy with slightly teary eyes, and Yamahira Jinji, my otaku friend who's also the epitome of an innocent virgin when it comes to girls, comforted her. Everyone, thank you so much. I was a little worried that I might be forgotten while I was absent from school. I'm really glad to have friends like you all. Haruka, who hadn't had friends for a long time, seemed to be very happy about this return celebration proposed by Fudehashi. She was even a little teary-eyed. I'm really glad I was able to bring Haruka back here. While being on the verge of tearing up from the gentle atmosphere of youth, I remembered what happened in the classroom this morning. Since Haruka's hospitalization schedule was almost filled with rehabilitation and time with family, Kazumihara and Fudehashi also refrained from visiting the hospital, just like me. So, Kazumihara and Fudehashi met the energetic Haruka for the first time in a while in the classroom this morning, and both of them cried like puppies. They were both in a state of mental breakdown like me, and the students around us were also slightly teary-eyed. I'm really glad these guys became friends with Haruka. After that, the morning schedule ended, and thus, a modest celebration of Haruka's return was held during lunchtime. Surrounded by lunchboxes and cafeteria food at the cafeteria tables, it was a small event of picking juice and snacks, but it would probably be the most delightful thing for Haruka. But seriously, having Shishun-san around and not is a huge difference, especially these three getting back to their usual selves. It's really a relief. Huh? Were the three of them not doing well while I was gone? Asked Haruka, puzzled, in response to Jinji's heartfelt words. Oh yeah, definitely Kazumihara-san and Fudehashi-san were both really down and became very quiet. Well, of course, the most problematic was, without a doubt, Nayahama. Yay, heh. We were pretty gloomy ourselves, but Nayahama-kun was on a worrying level. I mean, seriously, he looked like he was on death's doorstep. And for the first few days, his face was as pale as a zombie. Now it's funny, but at the time, we were seriously worried he might just keel over. Was that so? Although it's embarrassing to hear about that time, it's mostly accurate. Right after Haruka collapsed, it felt like I was falling from a deep cliff, a never-ending despair engulfing my heart. It shocked both my classmates and my family quite a bit. Well, I was just really worried. Shinichiro-kun. As I confessed with a sense of embarrassment, Haruka smiled happily. Thank you for worrying about me, that smile seemed to convey, and it was so lovely that it made me blush even more. But, I've heard you both call each other by your names. I mean, you're hiding it in front of the others, right? This is the first time you've seen it, Yamahira-kun. Apparently, it happened during that beach incident. In other words, it's our achievement. Seriously, it's like we've forgotten the times when we used to call each other by our last names. As the three of them sent me warm, grinning looks, I thought, they're saying whatever they want, but at the same time, it felt kind of nostalgic. It's been so long since we were all gathered at school like this, and it's been even longer since they teased me like this. Now then, originally, the purpose of this gathering was to chat cheerfully about how Haruka was doing during her hospitalization, and the things that happened in class while she was away, but it seems like we'll have to put all of that on hold for now. There's clearly something else that should be the top priority on the agenda. Huh? Kazumihara suddenly announced, and I didn't quite understand her intent. However, Jinji and Fudehashi seemed to take her words as a matter of course, nodding in agreement. So, I'd like to hear about how Nayahama-kun and Haruka became a couple. What? Huh? Kazumihara's words were thrust upon us unexpectedly, and both Haruka and I were taken aback. We've got 3 bonus chapters this week. In total, that means that we should be finished with this series by the end of the week. I'm trying to finish translating the remainder right now so KO5 members should be able to read the whole thing right now. What's going on? How did you come up with such perceptive lines? I mean, it was early in the morning on the way to school, so there was no one around. Wait. What on earth are you talking about? Judging by this reaction, I guess you really didn't know. It seems so honestly, it's hard to believe. Faced with my attempts to figure out what they were onto, Fudahashi and Jinji let out bewildered voices. But seriously, why are you all so sure about this? Well, you see, when we met Haruka in the morning, we were all so caught up in welcoming her return that we didn't notice anything. But once we calmed down a bit, it was pretty obvious that something was going on with you two. We were already close before, but today, it's like you two wanted to be as close as possible whenever you talked. Remember when you both went to get juice from the vending machine? Naya-Hamakun handed change to Haruka and held her hand tightly in the process. And Haruka blushed and squeezed his hand back. We did. Now that they mention it, we did do all of that. I was just so happy to be with Haruka at school and to be able to touch her. But it seems that these feelings inadvertently translated into my actions. But even so, we weren't doing anything openly in front of others. How did they figure it out so precisely? Wait, you didn't think that we were doing this discreetly? Seriously, it was so blatantly obvious that even I, who's not very good with these things, noticed. And everyone in the class had that look, like they knew. We were the same outside the classroom too, in the hallway and everywhere. Today, it seems like this has become the talk of the school even more than Haruka's return. Didn't you realize? Given this succession of objective observations, Haruka and I are left speechless and frozen. At the very least, I didn't think I was being careless, but it seems that Haruka, the world's #1 angel, became my girlfriend, and I got too carried away. My usually functioning sense of public appearance seems to have gone completely offline. So what's the truth? Honestly, the atmosphere was so intense that even I'm pretty excited. Yeah, what is it? To be honest, I was so curious that I couldn't concentrate in class at all today. Kazumihara and Fudahashi, as if determined not to let us off the hook, lean in closer to the two of us. Their eyes are not just filled with interest, but they're practically sparkling with excitement. Well, with these three at least, I did plan to tell them pretty soon. I meet eyes with Haruka beside me and give a big nod, silently telling her that we don't need to keep it a secret any longer. She seems to understand my intention, and she nods back, her cheeks lightly flushed. Yes, actually, right now I'm dating Shinichiro. What? Haruka confessed with a shy demeanor, and the three of them erupted into a mixture of astonishment and applause. Their voices were so loud that they drew attention from the entire cafeteria. What? I mean, seriously? There were so many times before when I thought something like this might happen, but I always ended up disappointed, so I thought maybe this time was just another false alarm. See, congratulations? This is amazing. Amazing, Naya-Hamakun? You finally broke through Haruka's natural airheaded barrier and made her realize her feelings? I'm so moved, I could cry. You finally did it. Naya-Hama, I don't know, knowing you from before, this leap feels like it might bring tears to my eyes. With various expressions, our friends at the table celebrated us. The fact that emotions could be so openly displayed over someone else's romance truly felt like high school. I muttered somewhat embarrassedly in my heart. So what happened next? Did you confess while you were working part-time together? Or was it when you gave her a birthday present after all? It was definitely Naya-Hamakun who made the approach, but what was Haruka's reaction? And does Haruka's incredibly overprotective dad know about this? You guys are shining brighter than ever. Looking at Kazumihara and Fudahashi, who seemed like reporters gathering for a celebrity wedding announcement, I said with a slightly tired voice. These two have always taken good care of Haruka, so I can understand why they're so excited. Yes, Shinichiro told me exactly as he said. The place was in my room. No, Haruka? If you talk about it so candidly, my heart won't be able to take it. Stammering, I hurriedly stopped Haruka, who seemed to have spilled everything. Well, it's fine to tell Kazumihara and Fudahashi, but it's a bit much in this cafeteria where we've already attracted so much attention. But I was really caught off guard. I initially thought we'd keep it a secret. It seems that way. But maybe this is for the best. Whether it was because she didn't need to hide it anymore or not, Haruka seemed relieved. I want to be by Shinichiro's side because I love him. So, if everyone knows that I'm his girlfriend, and if it's considered natural for them to acknowledge it, what's going on with everyone? With an impact that seemed to naturally flow from her lips, even though she was totally clueless, both I and our three classmates who had been making a fuss until a moment ago were left speechless with bright red faces. Right, that's true. Even though we're in a relationship, her airheadedness is still intact. My mouth is full of sugar. Ugh, I underestimated Haruka's naturalness. Gufu, this is like a weapon of mass destruction against single people. Could it be that we've opened Pandora's box? The two girls who seemed to have suffered some emotional damage complained, and Jinji, with a face as if had just swallowed a whole bag of sugar, was completely defeated. And as we were making a commotion like that, it's not just Shijun, but that guy Naya-Hama too. A resounding voice echoed from the entrance of the cafeteria, and at the same time, 5 male students boldly approached our table. They varied in type, some with solid athletic builds, others with a more carefree demeanor, but they all shared one thing in common. A strong, almost arrogant confidence emanating from their faces. Who are these guys? They just came marching in all of a sudden. They're probably the ones who were eyeing Haruka before summer break. Upon hearing Futahashi's explanation, which made Jinji's eyes widen, I recalled these guys myself. This was something I'd heard from Futahashi. It seemed that from early spring, as they saw me getting closer to Haruka, some guys from outside our class thought, if Nayahama, a guy who doesn't stand out, can get close to Shishuin, then a cool guy like me should have no problem winning her over. And they got all fired up. Then, around the end of summer vacation, the unspoken agreement of no surprise confessions to Shishuin had gradually lost its effect. If Haruka hadn't fallen ill and been absent from school for over a month, the approaches might have increased even further. Futahashi had mentioned, excuse me, do you need something from me? I'm in the middle of catching up with my friends after a long time, so if you could come back later. Shishuin-san, I heard a rumor that you started dating that guy Nayahama, but that must be a mistake, right? The strapping male student who stood in front of us declared loudly as his opening statement, causing all the students in the cafeteria to stir, focusing their attention on us. Hey, what's the deal? I mean, I don't think something like that could actually happen, but I want it cleared up, you know? They pressed Haruka as if it were the most natural thing to do. I sighed. Why did Haruka have to explain herself to these guys? Well, it was within my expectations that guys like these would start showing up once Haruka and I started dating. Thanks to deepening our bonds during the cultural festival and sports festival, the students in my class never really questioned how close Haruka and I were. But outside of class, there were plenty of guys who wanted to make Haruka their girlfriend. If those guys heard that Haruka was dating Nayahama, the kind of geeky guy, some, if not all of them, would be unable to contain themselves. Then I'll just ask them to leave. There's no need to hide our relationship anymore, and it's not that difficult. While muttering to myself, just as I was about to rise from my seat, no, that rumor is not wrong. Facing the troublesome male students head-on, Haruka spoke up before me, clearly and with unwavering determination. I am in a relationship with Shinichiro-kun. With this statement, the entire cafeteria erupted into a tremendous uproar. Considering the rumors already circulating due to our carelessness today, this unequivocal declaration was, in a sense, the phrase everyone had been most eager to hear, causing bewildered voices and even screams of despair to rise from all corners of the cafeteria. What? Is this a joke? Is this for real? This can't be Shishuin-san. My brain is being obliterated. The commotion was even more chaotic than I had imagined. What the heck are they talking about? Shishuin with someone like him? I have the exact same feeling, but telling them that won't change a thing. Yamahira-kun. Among them, it's unacceptable for any guy they look down on to become Haruka's boyfriend. It's against their principles. Yes, they were a group of 5, not as flamboyant as Prince Matani, with whom I had some disagreement before. Apparently, he became strangely subdued after his pride was shattered by Haruka. These 5 were quite influential among the boys in our grade, strongly aware of their higher status. Given that I wasn't particularly good at sports and didn't have exceptional looks, I'm sure they believed that my relationship with Haruka, the school's idol, contradicted the natural order of things. Someone geeky and unremarkable like Nayahama Shinichiro-kun, is it? Yeah, that's right. He's all skinny and looks like a weakling, and apparently he's an otaku? Would even understand dating someone like that. After dumping us, you're going out with someone like him? Don't you think that's rude? I get it. You must be threatened, Shishuin-san. Alright, leave it to us. Well, take care of him and make sure he never gets near you again. The bunch was shouting nonsense, and even I was getting quite fed up with it. But what was even more startling was the intense fury in my 3 classmates sitting with me. Futahashi, who had a determined look, said, "Sorry, but I can't stay quiet any longer," while Kazumihara responded with a voice as cold as ice, "What a coincidence, I feel the same way." Even Jinji, who didn't seem like the fighting type, was on the verge of exploding, his face reddening with anger. Who the hell do they think they are? I hate these high and mighty bastards. In this almost explosive atmosphere, bam! A deafening sound echoed through the cafeteria, instantly silencing the previously tumultuous scene. And everyone present turned their attention to the girl named Haruka Shishuin, who had just struck the table with all her might, with a resounding thud that reverberated through the cafeteria. The bustling noise instantly fell silent. Everyone present turned their attention to the girl named Shishuin Haruka, who had just struck the table with both hands. "Could you please stop with your disrespectful remarks if you can't just listen quietly?" Despite the multitude of shocked stares, Haruka boldly raised her voice. "Shinichiro-kun isn't just unremarkable, he's incredibly cool. He perseveres through anything, achieves incredible things, and never gives up even in the face of obstacles. Yet, he's incredibly kind. He's helped me countless times, more times than I can count." The 5 boys, frozen in astonishment, faced the unexpected surge of anger from the girl they thought of as a gentle, air-headed beauty. I can list Shinichiro-kun's wonderful qualities endlessly. He's incredibly intelligent, an excellent teacher in studies, excels at part-time work beyond his years, and his shy and smiling face is so endearing. His dependability when he helps me out when I'm in trouble just fills me with warmth. Praised from every angle, I felt my face burning with embarrassment, yet Haruka's words were an unexpected joy for me. "He's far more wonderful than any of you, he's the one I love so much." Placing her hand over her heart, Haruka proclaimed without a trace of hesitation, her intensity causing every single person in the cafeteria to widen their eyes. "Haruka, And I, too, felt a sweet numbness wash over my mind at her pure confession. To be told I love you by the person you love is perhaps the greatest happiness in the world. Alright, that's enough, all of you. Facing the group of 5 who were frozen by Haruka's outburst, I spoke slowly. I understand that you might not be convinced, but I'm genuinely dating Haruka. If you still have complaints, speak up. The 5 seemed to realize their disadvantage and hurriedly retreated. Finally, the time of contention was over, but... oh, the next thing that happened was a tremendous applause from the students in the cafeteria. You did it, Shishun-san. That was so satisfying. Ugh, is he really that into her? Geez, this is so embarrassing, damn. I'm so envious. That geeky guy? Ugh, I want a boyfriend who can say that too. As if enjoying such entertainment, many of the girls clapped and cheered with excitement, and quite a few boys joined in too. While there were many resentful voices from the boys, that was to be expected. I just shouted something in the heat of the moment. In the midst of the thunderous applause, Haruka seemed to have cooled down and now looked at her actions with a calmer head. I'm sorry, I didn't just let it slip, I completely revealed it, didn't I? No, it was already quite obvious, and it's completely fine, I said, patting Haruka's apologetic head, savoring the sensation of her silky hair. Then, moving a step closer to her so that no one else could hear, I spoke in a soft, whispering voice. More importantly, I was so happy. I was so happy that you got so angry, and you affirmed me so strongly it made my head tingle with happiness. And no, it's just I only said what I was thinking. Because it was what you were thinking, that's why it made me so happy, I murmured in my heart, continuing to stroke her head with love. Knowing that you genuinely feel that way, that's why I was so happy. So thank you, Shinichiro-kun. It seems I've become quite the celebrity, I said, and Haruka flashed a bright smile as if a flower had bloomed. Confirming our mutual feelings was a very pleasant experience. Haruka and I gazed at each other absent-mindedly. Both of you, shouldn't you take a look around soon? Fudahashi teased, and I snapped back to reality. The applause had somehow stopped, replaced by curious gazes directed at us. Looking closer, our 3 classmates were also watching us with grinning faces. Finally, we realized that we were layering embarrassment on top of embarrassment. Well, because we get carried away with each other, we should be a bit more careful. Why yes. I couldn't even count how many times my face had turned red since earlier. Haruka and I sat down to escape the attention, enduring the unending grinning looks. Thanks to this event, our relationship quickly became known throughout the school. For a while, both Haruka and I found ourselves constantly in the spotlight just by walking down the hall. It feels like we've become celebrities, I remarked. Yes, it's quite ticklish. It still seems to be the talk of the entire school, Haruka responded. After school, in the library, where we were both alone together for the first time in a while, taking turns as library committee members. In the quiet room, we reminisced about the events of the past few days. After that cafeteria incident, it seemed that the information had spread quickly. When we returned to the classroom, we were surrounded by our classmates. I knew it. I thought it was a done deal from the morning. Congratulations, Nayahama-kun. Your persistent style has paid off. I've been worried for so long, so this is a bit refreshing. While I was grateful for their congratulations, I couldn't help but feel a sense of discomfort. The way everyone was talking made it sound like it had been obvious for a long time that I liked Haruka. When I voiced this question, ha ha ha, what, were you trying to hide it with that? Red-faced, Akozake, the idiot who had caused trouble during the cultural festival, burst into laughter. TLN, don't remember his name and don't want to check. No, everyone was just considerate and kept quiet. To be honest, it would have been more strange if you weren't dating with that level of intimacy. I was a bit taken aback by the exasperated expression on the handsome baseball team member, Tsukamoto. Other classmates nodded in agreement. Well, it's a relief it was accepted more peacefully than I thought. Honestly, I was expecting a lot more of those 5 guys to show up, and that idiot Okatani might come back and start something again. Yeah, that impolite and tactless guy, don't worry, if that happens, it'll definitely drive him away. Honestly, I don't want to see him again. I see. As soon as that name was mentioned, Haruka's face transformed into that of a fallen heroine with extinguished highlights. Her voice was colder than the glaciers of the Arctic. Scary, she really does hate him. Oh, by the way, Haruka, how's your body feeling? Yes, for the first few days, I wasn't quite back to normal, but now, I'm completely fine. Catching up with the late studying is tough, but I'm full of energy. Haruka responded with a smile brimming with vitality, and I felt relieved. After all, the connection of future memories was an unknown phenomenon for humanity. I had secretly worried if there might be any lingering effects. Alright. Well, I have a suggestion. Yes? I'll accept any suggestion from you, Shinichiro-kun, so please feel free to say anything. The innocent girl once again said something so defenseless, causing my heart to waver. She was so adorable that I almost lost myself in it, but I gathered my resolve and spoke. How about going out together this Saturday? Nayahama Shinichiro, was a 25-year-old corporate slave. After enduring a high school life as an otaku and a loner, I ended up working for a hellish black company, grinding away my mental well-being and lifespan for 7 long years, like a bottom-tier existence. Yes, that's how it was until just 2 months ago. Why did things turn out like this? Oh, Nayahama-kun, this carpaccio is delicious. It goes perfectly with white wine. Shizuen-san, isn't this a bit fast-paced? In an izakaya bustling with after-work patrons in the evening, an incredibly beautiful woman sitting across from me tilted her glass, in high spirits. With her long, lustrous hair and eyes that sparkled like stars, she was a goddess of beauty that made many men turn their heads when she walked down the street. Shizuan Haruka. Born into a prestigious family, she was a noblewoman with a wealthy background. Even though we were classmates in high school, I, an ordinary person from a humble background, was not someone who could easily approach such a woman. Yet, here I was, out for drinks with her, just the two of us. And this wasn't the first time. Why did things end up like this again? I remember everything that led up to this point. It's just that I have no idea why I was able to go that far back then. The determination and drive that surged through me at that time, propelling me to quit my job, which I hadn't mustered the courage to do before, and submit my resignation to that wretched company. Not only that, I also took the initiative to reconnect with my family, with whom I had grown distant. I repaired the strained relationships. When I went back home during that time, Mom was in tears, overjoyed that I was escaping the clutches of the black company. My younger sister, Kana, still looks at me with a strict eye, but she talks to me occasionally. It's a world of difference from before. Just getting to this point is unbelievable in itself, but my actions afterwards were even more out of character for the usual me. By chance, I met Shizuan-san again, and sensing the severe mental anguish she was enduring at work, I started persuading her to quit her job. Shizuan-san was stubborn, but I didn't give up. Eventually, I succeeded in persuading her. I managed to keep her away from the brutal bullying. But inviting Shizuan-san out for a drink on the very day we reconnected, and persuading her to quit her job with such unwavering determination, how did I become such a smooth talker? And why did I push so hard for Shizuan-san to resign? I remember the impatience, the desperation, and the fierce determination I felt back then. But the reason why I pushed so hard remains erased from my memory. Well, whatever. Even though I don't understand what that sudden surge of energy in my heart was, it was undoubtedly an action based on my own will. If Shizuan-san knew the truth about the bullying she endured, even now, I'm sure she'd want me to quit the company immediately. I know very well that severe stress can easily destroy a person. But I absolutely can't say my true feelings. Even if I knew about Shizuan-san's situation, I would have been too scared of being seen as annoying or disliked to take any action. That's what I should have done. However, the fierce fire in my heart forcibly moved me, and now Shizuan-san is smiling in front of me. Freed from the chains that bound her, she's wearing the same cheerful smile as back then. Wow, I feel so light after quitting my previous job. I feel like I've grown wings and can fly in the sky. Oh, I totally get that. When I escaped from that forced labor camp-like place, I felt so light, and the world that was once monochrome suddenly became vivid, like it was in color. Yes, exactly. My sensitivity and composure have returned, and everything seems to shine. Even the food and drinks taste so much better. Oh, waiter, I'll have a cassis orange next, please. With her cheeks slightly flushed from the alcohol, Shizuan-san, relaxed and at ease, laughed merrily. There's not a trace of the oppressive atmosphere from 2 months ago. Thank goodness, I'm really glad. When I reunited with Shizuan-san, the girl I had admired in high school, and saw her living in society with a gloomy face, I felt intense sorrow and anger. Now, after going through twists and turns, Shizuan-san, freed from the crushing burden on her heart, shows a different, natural smile than she did back then. Every time, I feel like I've been saved from the depths of my heart. Ah, that's right. This is how she should be. But seriously, life is so unpredictable. I never dreamed I'd be working for a giant company like Kayakiro Bookstore. Haha, we're colleagues now, after all. Reflecting on the drastic changes of the past 2 months, I took a sip of my beer. After successfully persuading Shizuan-san to leave her job on that fateful day at the seaside park, we exchanged contact information on a chat app, and since then, we've been in touch frequently. In the midst of it all, I learned that shortly after, Shizuan-san told her parents about what had happened at work and promptly resigned. Apparently, Shizuan Tokimune, her father and the president of Kayakiro Bookstore, was furious upon learning that his daughter had been subjected to such terrible bullying. It seems he was so angry that calling him merely livid would be an understatement. He hastily arranged top-notch lawyers, so that Tormentor Group, the root of all evil, would have to pay an extraordinarily heavy price socially. Well, honestly, my personal impression is, pulverize them thoroughly until there's nothing left. I hope those who try to kill other people's spirits for reasons as trivial as personal dislike never see the light of day again. But I was extremely nervous when it came to meeting both your parents. When Shizuan-san told her parents about her situation and her decision to quit, she mentioned the classmate she coincidentally met who desperately persuaded her to quit her job. From what she said, her parents expressed a strong desire to meet this person and convey their gratitude. So, even though I'm currently unemployed, I ended up meeting the president and his wife of a major corporation in a high-end hotel cafe. I was horrified listening to my daughter's story. Without you, Haruka would have ended up in a terrible situation after some years, probably. Moreover, you managed to persuade her to quit despite her stubbornness in changing her situation. I have no words of gratitude. Despite being the president of a major company, the president and his wife, who looked uncannily similar to Shizuan and was surprisingly young, bowed deeply. I was trembling with fear, but I found solace in their decency. Knowing that there are parents who love their daughter this much, I felt that Shizuan-san would be okay. Anthy's encounter was the momentous turning point in my life. I would really like to thank you, You're currently looking for a workplace where you can work like a human after leaving a black company? If you're interested, why not come to us? In an instant, my vision went completely white at this dreamlike proposition. However, determined not to let this opportunity slip by, I nodded vigorously. In no time at all, I became an employee of Kishuryu bookstore. To be precise, it was a position in the affiliated book CAF. By the way, Shijun-san, who had successfully found new employment, also worked at the same place. Unintentionally, we became colleagues. With this new connection, we often chat and go out for drinks after work. I felt a bit awkward about joining through connections, but since everyone around me knows me as a relative of the Shijun family rather than the president's daughter, I'm spared from excessive attention. Truly, I can work here with great comfort. Yeah, Manager Mishima was really angry when he heard what we went through in our previous jobs. I wish I had a boss like her sooner. It's a white company, isn't it? It really is. As we recalled just how bad our previous jobs were, we both let out bitter laughs. Experiencing the world of a white company, the thought of what on earth was that hell in my previous job, inevitably crossed our minds. Why on earth did I stay in such an illegal company that blatantly ignored labor laws? Was I a bit of an idiot? No, Naya Hamakan, not only did you manage to escape from there, but you also saved me, who was on the verge of a nervous breakdown due to my stubbornness. You're my lifesaver and someone I deeply respect. Huh? So, see close. Seemingly a little excited, Shijun-san leaned on the table, bringing her beautifully flushed face closer to mine. Her captivating eyes, long hair flowing like silk, lips tinged with a faint peach hue, and the ample cleavage that was inevitably in my field of vision, all of it zoomed in. Oh no, she's too beautiful. Her beauty is beyond any regular actress, and I can't help but be conscious of her purity. I felt it deeply too, but as an adult, I'm struggling just to take care of myself. I don't have the luxury to help others. Shijun-san pulled her face away, and with an earnest tone, continued. But Naya Hamakan, you had just escaped from a terrible workplace yourself, and yet you helped me. For me, it was a salvation to the point of tears. Shijun-san. Shijun-san's feelings, spoken quietly but with deep emotion, seemed to transcend words. Also it was a little embarrassing, but I was happy that you've been watching over me since high school. No, that was... What Shijun-san was saying was a confession of how I had listed all of her good points when persuading her back then. It was also a confession that I had secretly been watching her during our high school days, and now looking back, it was beyond embarrassing. At that time, I was also a bit excited, or rather, something was off. I can't believe I went on a near-stalker-like tirade like that. It's almost unbelievable even to myself. So, was it a lie? No, there's no way. What I said back then was all true. Shijun-san is just incredibly attractive. Is that so? This exchange was a mutual detonation, a self-destructive move for both of us. Both Shijun-san, who heard it, and I, who went on the rant, were blushing intensely, the destructive power of the bomb we had just detonated apparent on our faces. Since she lost that natural barrier from high school, Shijun-san's cheeks were now tinted a deeper shade of red. That's why I have confidence, Shijun-san. As if to cover up my embarrassment, I began to speak my true feelings. Shijun-san, you're a person of great value and incredibly charming. So, for me I just couldn't stand the fact that someone like you was suffering because of the trivialities of society. Naya Hamakan. That's right. I still don't know what that flame-like motivation within me was at that time, but the feelings that swelled up within me then are still here, unchanged. The presence of Shijun Haruka is a gem of my youth, and I absolutely cannot overlook it being tainted by the malevolence of the world. So what I mean is, and so, I must move forward with my own feelings. Whether I'm an introvert, inexperienced in love, or just plain bad at life, unless I take the initiative, I won't get what I want. That's what the me from that day taught me. So, you've invited me for drinks several times, but this time, could I be the one to invite you? There's actually a restaurant I find a bit hard to go to alone, so it would be a huge help if you could come with me this Friday evening. Sweating profusely, I extended an invitation that crossed a certain line. It was a decision made with as much determination as jumping off a cliff. But in reality, it was reaching the limit of my patience. Since Shijun-san regained her brightness, she often initiated conversations with me and we shared private time like this several times. Even though I'm a wimp and have zero experience in love, the rekindled affection was burning like a campfire, and my feelings were on the verge of overflowing. Why yes, I'll go. Will it be by car? Or by train? Yeah, I was thinking of using my car. So it'll be a little drive? Hehe, I'm really looking forward to it. Once again, Shijun-san, now a goddess, laughed cheerfully, just like she did back in high school. She didn't try to hide her exuberance, like an innocent child. Thanks. But are you sure about your schedule? I heard you've been getting along with the girls in your department recently, and if you have prior commitments. No, it's okay. Everyone usually has lunch together during the weekdays, but many of them have families and don't gather in the evenings. Besides, still wearing a delighted smile, Shijun-san continued naturally. I only ever invite Naya Hamakan like this, so as long as we both don't have any plans, it's totally fine. It was one of those natural airhead moments of Shijun-san, a tendency that occasionally surfaced even in adulthood. It was impossible to know just how much it pierced a guy's heart. Talking like this and laughing so freely, it really feels like a dream. Shijun-san, who had regained the innocent side she lost upon our reunion, cherished this moment with great joy. No amount of thanks will ever be enough. Everything I've managed to regain is all thanks to you, Naya-hama-kun. Shizuen-san. Her eyes, clear and untainted by any lingering fatigue, were directed at me. So, from now on, please take care of me. I want to be friends with Naya-hama-kun forever and ever. Saying this, Shizuen-san smiled. It was something that the Shizuen-san of our reunion, who had become a radiant goddess, had lost. This smile of her heart, bright and pure like a blooming flower, was right there. When I woke up on this chilly morning, I was in very high spirits. You see, today is the day of a special big event, my first date with Haruka. Why, going out is that what a date is? Yes, I'm coming. Please take me with you, Shinichiro-kun. In response to my invitation the other day, Haruka, while surprised and blushing, accepted it with an adorable smile. And now, the much-awaited day of our date has arrived. I had planned to go to the meeting place with plenty of time to spare, but how did this happen? I'm currently sitting in the back seat of a luxurious car. My stomach is twisting with anxiety over this surreal situation. Is something the matter, Naya-hama-kun? The driver who responded to my voice was none other than Haruka's father, Shizuen Tokimune, the president of a nationwide bookstore chain. Why did you go through the trouble of driving for me? When you were waiting in front of the house like that, my heart felt like it was going to jump out. Yes, that's right. I left the house all excited, but waiting for me was this overprotective president in a luxury car. Frozen like a stone in the doorway, I've arrived at this point after being told, you're meeting Haruka, right? I'll drive you, and getting into the car. So, I just wanted to talk with you a little. I heard it's your first date with Haruka today, so I decided to play chauffeur. And no, you didn't have to play chauffeur? What kind of absurd situation is this? The last time I saw you was that night when Haruka had recovered. I received a call from Fuyamai-kun and hurried home with my wife. Tokimune-san spoke calmly as always, but it's even more terrifying, and my body won't stop trembling. When I arrived home, the scene that greeted me was Haruka, who had regained her health, embracing you. I didn't know whether to be moved to tears by the sight of my daughter back to normal, or to explode in anger at you, embracing my daughter before us, her parents. My emotions were all over the place. As Tokimune-san continued his narrative, my shirt grew increasingly damp with cold sweat. Ugh, I want to escape. By the way, raise the problem. When a father, who cherishes his daughter more than anything else, is informed with a flushed face, I have a date tomorrow, and ends up in a one-on-one situation with her date, what do you think the father is thinking? Maybe something like, I can't let a guy like you have my daughter? Haha, 0 points, Naya-hama-kun. The answer is, where should I bury this guy? Eek. Even though he's speaking in a calm tone, he's still angry? He's definitely angry? Haruka said she had a dream while she lost consciousness. Suddenly, Tokimune-san lowered his voice. It's a strange story to have a dream when she wasn't even in a coma anyway. In that dream, Haruka kept seeing her adult self and you, who were desperately trying to help her. With a wry smile, Tokimune-san continued. She said she was guided by your figure and voice, and managed to break free from the deep darkness. When I heard that, I felt completely deflated. Subconsciously, what Haruka sought wasn't her parents who had been watching over her since birth, but a boy she had just started interacting with for about half a year. A deep sigh escaped the father who loved his daughter, resonating within the car. But at the same time, I thought, Haruka is no longer a child, she's expanding her world outside the home. Ultimately, even the doctors don't know why Haruka ended up in that state, but if it weren't for you, she might not have returned to us. Looking at me through the rearview mirror, Tokimune-san spoke these sincere words to me. So, I want to thank you, Naya-hama-kun. Thank you for thinking of Haruka and for being there for her. And no, it's not I. I hadn't expected the conversation to take such a turn, and I found myself at a loss for words. Tokimune-san chuckled at my reaction and went on with his story. Listen, Naya-hama-kun. Has your resolve changed? I already know that the feelings you have for Haruka are not just some carefree high school crush. But that's precisely why I'm asking. Has your resolve changed? With a smile on his lips, Tokimune-san asked me as if he was emphasizing the importance of my answer. It was as if he was completely sure of what my answer would be. No, it hasn't changed. In response, I spoke my honest feelings clearly. To be honest, I didn't have any other answer in mind. I've finally achieved my long-cherished wish to walk alongside Haruka-san. From now on, as long as Haruka-san doesn't grow tired of me, I want to stay by her side. You're as unreserved as ever. You really don't have the typical cuteness of your age, right from the first time I met you. Despite his words, Tokimune-san's smile deepened, clearly pleased. So, from now on, prove it. Prove that you'll cherish Haruka's feelings and take care of her. I was taken aback by the words he gently spoke. He forgave me? The man who clearly loves his daughter, Tokimune-san, is willing to accept me, a man, walking alongside Haruka in the turbulent journey of life? This man, who loves his daughter so much, the president of this major corporation who has faced the ups and downs of life with a keener eye than anyone else, has recognized that I have the right. The joy that surged from my chest at this fact was beyond words. I finally gained this man's approval. Yes, I will definitely make Haruka happy, and someday, I'll do my best to call you Dad. What the heck are you talking about? You're getting ahead of yourself, you idiot. I thank you very much for giving me a ride. Hurry up and go. Don't keep Haruka waiting. Upon reaching our destination, Tokaimun-san dropped me off and promptly left. Considering his level of adoration for his daughter, he must be quite emotionally stirred about her going on a date. However, I'd like to think that the reason he doesn't show it is because he trusts me. But still, this place. I looked around and was filled with emotion. This seaside park, located far from the city center, was none other than the place Haruka and I visited in the future. Our target this time wasn't the park itself, but rather the large aquarium within the park. It was a choice made by Haruka from the options I had researched. Visiting this place now, after having been here in the future, felt somewhat peculiar. Over here, Shinichiro-kun. Right this way? I turned towards the voice, and there stood an angel. She's so cute. Though I've seen Haruka in casual wear countless times, I was once again captivated by her loveliness. The beige frilly blouse accentuated her pure aura, and the ribbon swaying at her chest was charming. The light blue skirt swayed gently, stirring a certain feeling within me. The pale peach-colored shoulder bag she had slung over her arm, as well as the white pumps matching her outfit, all complemented her well. It was a glamorous and refined coordination, giving off a princess-like impression. This incredibly cute girl is my girlfriend now, my girlfriend. What's wrong, Shinichiro-kun? You seem a bit absent-minded. Oh, no, I was just surprised by how incredibly cute you look, Haruka. GG's? Even though I'm already excited today, please don't make my heart race any faster, Haruka complained cutely while blushing. It was truly beyond words, and an odd groan escaped me unintentionally. But it was quite early, Haruka. We still have about 20 minutes until our agreed meeting time. Well, it's my first time having a date appointment, so I thought maybe I should come early and wait while thinking about you, Shinichiro-kun. Haruka said something so incredibly cute while blushing and laughing. The destructive power was so overwhelming that I unintentionally let out a strange sound. It's my first time, so there might be times when I'm not very good at it, but please, take care of me today. Yeah. It's my first time too, so let's take care of each other. Like middle schoolers in a couple, we were red-faced and nervous, facing the situation of our first date. Even though we've been to each other's houses, it might sound strange, but spending a holiday together, confirming each other's feelings, felt special. Well then, shall we go? Yes? Let's go, Shinichiro-kun. And so, the two of us walked hand in hand. This marked the start of an important day in our new relationship. Wow, look, Shinichiro-kun, these little fish are so colorful. Haruka joyfully expressed her delight at the small tropical fish in the tank. I'm glad it seems like she's enjoying herself. This aquarium, being a popular date spot, had quite elaborate and well thought out exhibits. While it was a spot where many people could enjoy themselves, Haruka's excitement was beyond my expectations. Oh, there are penguins too. Well, that's to be expected from marine creatures, I guess. Yes, that's right. Look, they're waddling around, and it's so cute. The penguins were indeed adorable, but it was Haruka, glued to the glass with both hands, her excitement palpable, that was overwhelmingly cute. We had already seen many creatures inside, but each time, she would sparkle with excitement and be engrossed. Witnessing this, my heart couldn't help but warm up. This place has a room with a panoramic view, apparently. Shall we go? Yes, let's go. There are still so many places we haven't seen. Haruka responded happily to my suggestion. Every time that innocent and radiant smile was directed at me, my own smile naturally deepened. By the way, Shinichiro-kun, you didn't happen to meet with my father this morning, did you? When I mentioned our date, he joked, should I come pick you up? I have some things I want to talk about anyway. I did meet him. In fact, he came to pick me up at my house in his car and even drove me to this place. Really? Did he say anything rude or? It seemed like Haruka didn't know, and she was quite surprised. Well, considering the idea of that man, who's so protective of his daughter, going to pick up her date must have sounded like a joke. No, not at all. If anything, he seemed to accept me and even gave his approval for Haruka and me to be together. Is that so? When I told him about us dating, he fainted from shock, and when he woke up, he cried for hours. So, it's a bit hard to believe. I heard about it from Natsuzaki-san, but it was even more turbulent than I imagined. He seemed relatively calm in the car, but that was probably after a considerable mental struggle. But if that's the case, I'm really happy. If he hadn't approved of the person I love, I might have ended up having a big fight with him, even if he's my father. Haruka naturally referred to me as the person she loves, and I was flustered. Her pure affection, expressed so openly, deeply touched my heart. All right, is this the room? Oh, this is. Wow, this is amazing. As we climbed a short flight of stairs, we found the 360-degree view room we were looking for. What surprised me first was that everything in sight was covered in blue water and colorful fish. The central part of the dome-shaped, large tank seemed to be designed for people to enter, creating the illusion of being underwater. The space for humans was about the size of a small elevator, but fortunately, there didn't seem to be any other guests. It looked like we could enjoy it alone. It's beautiful in the dim light, with only the tanks lit up. It somehow reminds me of a planetarium during a school festival. For me, it's a memory I'll never forget. It was just as fun as it is now. Although the viewing area was only large enough for about 4 or 5 people, luckily, there were no other customers, so we were alone. Yes, for me too. But the feeling is a bit different from the exhilaration I felt back then. I just can't stop feeling so happy. While we looked up at the ceiling of the tank, where many fish swam gracefully, Haruka spoke. When I go out like this with you, Shinichiro-kun, I feel so strongly that I've become the girlfriend of the person I love the most, and my heart just feels all warm and fluffy. I was told this with a voice filled with joy, and at this point, I felt like I might explode from sheer happiness. That a day like this would come, where Haruka would say such things to me. So, I sometimes feel like I want to touch you like this. Oh, suddenly, I felt a warmth against my back. Haruka was clinging to me from behind, touching her forehead to my back. It took me a few seconds to understand. Ha, Haruka. Well, since this is my first time being in a relationship, I didn't know until now, but maybe my feelings are deeper than an ordinary person's. Even the naturally carefree Haruka seemed to feel a little embarrassed about this action, and her voice was slightly higher. But when my feelings get this intense, I find myself wanting to touch you, Shinichiro-kun. Sorry, it's a bit indecent, isn't it? And no, I was a bit surprised, but I'm really happy. If it's okay with me, you can touch me anytime? Is that so? If you say things like that, it'll end up being all clingy right away, you know? TLN, do it. Well, that's only a win for me. Just having Haruka's body touching my back like this was already enveloping me in a feeling of supreme bliss. Her softness and warmth transmitted to me were too sensuous. So, if you also want to touch me, Shinichiro-kun. In the room dimly lit with only the lights from the tank, Haruka spoke alluringly in a whisper from behind me. Anytime, you can touch me, okay? I groaned in ecstasy from the voice so pure like an angel, yet devilishly tempting like a little demon. Really I feel like I'll never win against this innocent and radiant girl. Woa, amazing? It's huge. Oh indeed, this is something. Having explored the aquarium, we were now standing in front of its main attraction, the enormous tank. It was overwhelming. According to the information plaque, it held a volume equivalent to more than 10 school swimming pools. Inside, various species of sharks, rays, and even whale sharks swam gracefully. The sheer scale of it made it look like a cross-section of the ocean. It feels like a dream so sparkling and fantastical. The large tank, where both giant and small sea creatures coexisted, did indeed seem like something out of a fairy tale. In the dimly lit room, the tank gleamed as if basking in sunlight, creating a world of its own. It was all so mysterious, especially with its colossal size. This is truly amazing. They said it opened a few years ago, but I didn't expect the facilities to be this impressive. Yes, I've always wanted to visit an aquarium, so having my dream come true is wonderful. Wait, is this your first time at an aquarium? Surprisingly, it was. One would expect someone to have visited one at least once during their childhood. Yes, embarrassingly I always wanted to visit places like this as a child, but my father was always too busy. Haruka seemed momentarily lost in thought, perhaps recalling those days, and she smiled wistfully. Of course, I could go with mother or the housekeeper, but as a child, I really wanted to go with my whole family. In the end, though, right, that was probably the most crucial time for your father's company. That's probably why Haruka now revels in events and outings. Still, her pure-heartedness plays a significant role in her enjoyment. So today is truly enjoyable for me. Coming to a place I've always wanted to visit, with someone I've come to love. Naturally, I was once again touched by her words. I want to experience this wonderful feeling again. Haruka's graceful fingers intertwined with mine. Then let's go again. Be it an aquarium, a zoo, or an amusement park, wherever you want to go. I want to go to many places with you, see various things and share lots of time. What do you say? Will you go with me? Yes, I'll go. Tears glistened in Haruka's eyes as she spoke with heartfelt emotion. With you, Shinichiro, I'll go anywhere. My girlfriend, holding my hand, beamed with a smile that seemed to bloom like a flower of joy in front of the transparent tank. In that moment, I saw the precious hope for the future in her heart, shining brighter than anything else. I had quite a blast. Yes, it was really impressive. I could watch the tank with the swirling white jellyfish forever, and the seals were even more dynamic than I imagined. They really put a lot of thought into the presentations. Personally, I was surprised by how big the real capybaras are. Me too. I had imagined them to be about the size of a cat. Having conquered all the routes in the aquarium, we strolled through the seaside park outside. As winter drew near, darkness already blanketed the surroundings, and there were hardly any other people walking besides us. It was so much fun. While the contents of the aquarium were great, it was undoubtedly being with Haruka that made me feel so lighthearted. Finally understanding, I figured this was why couples in society always seemed eager to go on dates. This happiness of sharing an entire day together was irreplaceable. Darn it, I don't want it to end yet. I want to be together just a bit longer. Although it was about time to take Haruka home, I couldn't help but feel a lingering reluctance. Even though we'd been together since morning, it seemed I still hadn't had my fill of Haruka's presence. It's gotten quite dark for only being late afternoon. Are you okay with your curfew, Haruka? Yes, I sent a message to my parents, so I still have some time. So if you're okay with it, Shinichiro. For some reason, Haruka blushed and looked down, fiddling with her fingers. What could she possibly find so hard to say? Just a little bit more. Can we stay together a bit longer? Like a child asking a parent for something, Haruka said it with an upturned gaze, looking too adorable. Even though we've been together all day, I can't help but want to be with you just a bit longer. That's how I feel. With an air of longing, Haruka confessed while her cheeks flushed. Her overwhelming adorableness was almost unfair. For a moment, I felt like I might lose consciousness. Well, actually, regretting that I let Haruka say it first, I also voiced my feelings. I feel the same. I wanted to be with you just a little bit longer. I didn't want this day to end yet. That's what I was thinking. Shinichiro. Realizing that we shared the same sentiment, Haruka smiled happily. Even in the darkness of the night, her smile was incredibly radiant. So there's an observation deck over there. Shall we go check it out? Why yes, of course, I'd love to. Even though our date was coming to an end, we were both still fumbling and hesitating. Oh, we really are still beginners. Reacting to every little thing the other does, and getting flustered over trivial matters. With a little hesitation, I gently extended my arm towards Haruka, who was walking beside me. Haruka blinked for a moment but soon seemed to understand the meaning, blushing as she timidly looped her arm through mine. Walking with our arms linked, my heart pounded even harder than before. With more points of contact, not only could I feel Haruka's warmth, but also the softness of her body. It's okay. I'd like to see the sea at night too. As we chatted, we climbed the stairs to the observation deck in the seaside park. Perhaps due to the late hour, there was hardly anyone around besides us, and the sound of the waves could be faintly heard in the distance. By the way, hee. What's up? Oh, it's nothing. I did get permission from my parents, but being alone with a boy like this until evening, it suddenly made me feel like I've grown up. I get it. It feels like we've entered unfamiliar territory, doesn't it? Yes, exactly. Walking up the long staircase, we finally reached the top of the observation deck. The view that spread out before us. Wow. Countless lights sparkled like stardust, illuminating the night. Especially dazzling was the urban area in the distance. Perhaps due to the absence of clouds and the clear air, the night view was particularly vivid. The brilliance of human activity, shining so brilliantly it was there. Amazing. I thought we wouldn't be able to see much of the sea, but I didn't expect the night view to be this beautiful. Yes, it's really beautiful. We were captivated by the distant night view. Although we should be living in that world, when viewed from here, its radiance was overwhelmingly dazzling. Suddenly, a cold wind brushed against our shoulders. Although it felt like we had just gone to the sea, the seasons were already changing. It's getting pretty chilly. Winter is almost here. Yes, it seems so. It's already that time of year. Looking at the brilliant night view, Haruka spoke with a sense of nostalgia. You've become so active and friendly with me since about 7 months ago, right? It was spring back then, just after you leaped through time. 7 months ago. She mentioned the time just after I leaped through. Haruka gazed into the distance, lost in thought. Since then, every day has been so rich. It was just so much fun. She continued, savoring the memories. From the lively cultural festival, to the intense studying for exams, and our class winning the sports tournament. Then, in the summer, I stayed over at your place and had a dreamlike time at the sea. And I even worked part-time, feeling a bit more like an adult. Haruka listed the memories one by one, each one a precious gem in my life. This second chance at life was a path I vowed to never regret. In all those memories, you were there with me. I was so clueless, but because the boy I liked was by my side, those days were so enjoyable they brought tears to my eyes. Haruka turned towards me, giving me a gentle smile. Her radiance was even more dazzling than the night view behind her, captivating me endlessly. Now, I'm really happy. I can have silly conversations with Mizuki-san and Mai-san every day, and I'm starting to get along with everyone in the other classes. And now, I can be your girlfriend. I can't believe the person I am now. Haruka's eyes conveyed this feeling. But suddenly, her expression clouded. But that's why there are times when I get scared. Scared? Yes. Even this wonderful youth will eventually come to an end. Haruka lowered her gaze slightly and murmured her inner thoughts. Now that winter is approaching, and when that's over, we'll be third years. Of course, it's only natural that we have to start thinking about various things. But somehow, I can't help but feel so lonely. Indeed, youth, it's truly a limited time offer. The time granted to be a child. The youth that stands between being a child and an adult is what defines our student days. No one can stay there forever. From now on, what kind of adult do you want to become, Shinichiro? It was clear she was asking something she truly wanted to know, but I answered her question seriously. Well, I do want to become a proper adult. Find a stable job and live for the simple joys of being human. It might seem plain, but that's really what I want. Finding a reliable job and living a wholesome life as a human being. That was one of the fundamental premises I set for myself when starting this second life. No, it's not plain at all. Haruka kindly affirmed my future plans, which might seem uninteresting to many. The sparkling, wonderful future that won't lose to any other dreams. I truly believe that from the bottom of my heart. Haruka's smile shining in the night was filled with pure and honest feelings. She truly believed that this wish was something beautiful, from the depths of her heart. Thank you, Haruka. But, you see, my wish isn't just that. The sea breeze whispered by, gently brushing against our shoulders. In the night's embrace, all that could be heard were the distant waves and the soft sounds of insects. As Haruka said, youth doesn't last forever. Because it's so enjoyable, time flies by in the blink of an eye, and we inevitably grow up. I felt the same loneliness about it. I even thought that these jewel-like days, this golden time without any missing pieces, should continue on forever. But that can't happen, and it shouldn't. It's fine to take detours, to rest, and sometimes it's okay to start over. But ultimately, no matter what, we must keep moving forward. From now on, both our external and internal worlds will change. But it's not all bad. I truly believe there are things we gain by moving forward. Time passing by is a terrifying thing. I know deep in my bones that the future isn't necessarily always bright. That's why we must continue to reach for a better future. As I said earlier, I want to walk a proper path and find happiness. To be able to say with pride that my life is undoubtedly happy. So, looking at Haruka, who was intently listening and watching me, I hesitated for a moment but continued with my words. It's a rather forward conversation, but I want her to know that these are my true feelings. After our youth ends, after we graduate from high school and become adults, if, at that time, Haruka is still walking by my side without getting tired of me, if I can be a man who can properly support Haruka. The courage needed to say these things is something that my journey so far has given me. I'm not just a man covered in grief and regret anymore. My revenge on the gloomy youth I had, a revenge not just to clear my regrets, but also a path of growth to move forward into the future. At that time, I want Haruka's future. For the greatest happiness in my life that I desire. In response to my words, carrying my feelings, Haruka covered her mouth with her hand and widened her eyes in surprise. For several seconds, she remained frozen, seemingly unable to fully grasp the impact. Then, at that time, with emotions she couldn't quite contain, her voice trembling, Haruka spoke. Will you make me happy? A single tear slid down Haruka's cheek. In the moonlight, that precious droplet sparkled. Yes, I promise. It was a vow that was only natural for me. Making the most important girl in my life happy is also my own happiness. I'm surprised at how much I love you, Haruka. Shinichiro-kana. Haruka's tears continued to flow, wetting her cheeks. Seeing her like this, so dear to me, I held her tightly as if to envelop her entire body. Feeling the softness of Haruka's body against mine, I was on the verge of being intoxicated by her sweet scent. Just that alone, I loved her so much. I love you, I love you. As if trying to convey the depth of her feelings, Haruka wrapped her arms around my back tightly. I love you too, Shinichiro-kun. That's why, seeking each other, we became deeply entwined. So, please let me be by your side forever. And our flushed faces had unknowingly drawn very close, in a distance where our breaths seemed to almost overlap. Haruka gently closed her eyes, as if in anticipation. There was nothing to stop us anymore. I put my feelings into a kiss on her cherry-colored lips. With the heat driven by our emotions, our passions intertwined as one. Everything I desire now, everything that fills me to the brim is born from the warm connection between Haruka and me. I promise you, Haruka, I will always be by your side. Reality is always fragile, and there are plenty of painful and sad things. The future often scatters not just hope, but also despair. But no matter what difficulties lie ahead, no matter what fate awaits, I will overcome it all. Continuing to think of Haruka, I will simply continue to walk forward. Even if we were to turn back time. It's all to make you happy. Next episode, Epilogue. It's a worn-out phrase, but it's certainly not wrong. At least, the current situation is something I couldn't have imagined back when I started my second chance at life. Seriously, the future is hard to grasp. Dressed in a suit from top to bottom, Nayahama Shinichiro, poured amber liquid into a glass, feeling deeply moved. I'm currently in the lounge on the top floor of the Kayakiro bookstore headquarters building, towering in a prime location. From this spacious room, you can overlook the sparkling night view in the dark. The interior resembles a high-end hotel lounge, exuding quite a luxurious vibe. However, it's not a private establishment, it's a room the company set up for employee welfare. During off hours, any employee can use it for gatherings or lunch meetings, making it a popular space. But today, it's reserved. President, aren't you drinking a bit too much? You'll get scolded by Akiko-san again, won't you? Ha ha ha, don't be so serious, Shinichiro. Once again, a new business venture hit the jackpot, and our performance is at an all-time high. As a businessman, I can't help but celebrate a little. Seated next to me is the president of our company, Tokimune Shishun. He laughed heartily, tilting his whiskey. It's been 10 years since I first met him, and either due to active engagement in the front lines or thanks to his wife, Akiko-san, there's no sign of aging at all. I never imagined I'd be frequently summoned to the president's office like this. After high school, I smoothly entered the university I aspired to and immediately joined the Kayakiro bookstore after graduating. When I received the notice of employment after the interview, I was ecstatic, partly because of the employment ticket I received from President Tokimune himself in high school, but according to what I later heard, the personnel department made the hiring decision as usual, without the need for the president to go out of his way. So, I achieved my major goal of getting a job in a white-collar company in my second life, and it's been 5 years already. Fortunately, my work is going well, and I appreciate the decency of being treated like a human being in a proper company every day. But please stop calling an ordinary employee like me to the president's office so often. Mr. President, I'm being looked at with eyes like, who on earth are you? By everyone around. What do you mean by an ordinary employee? Don't you understand your own worth yet? The ideas you presented when you were in high school have been a significant help in supporting the current Kayakiro bookstore. Even after joining, your numerous predictions about the economy and trends have hit the mark, bringing immense profits to our company. Seeing that keen insight, I naturally want to hear your opinions from time to time. No, it goes without saying that I don't possess such foresight. It's just that thanks to the cheat of future knowledge, I could make predictions and stay ahead. And even that will be over once I surpass the lifespan of my previous life. You're talking about things I really don't understand. Even if that were the case, I can't see into the future for much longer. In a few more years, I won't be able to predict anything. Again, I don't really get it. Even if it were true, you're exceptionally talented. The ideas and prophecies you've presented since joining have greatly contributed. Ideally, I'd want to promote you aggressively to match your achievements. Well, let's wait a bit until you build up more achievements within the company. No, like I keep saying, I don't have any kind of foresight. What I've done up till now was just sheer luck, and I'm certain that in a few more years, I won't be able to read anything. Still, it's incomprehensible. Even if that were the case, you're genuinely outstanding. You impressed Mishima-san, your superior, too. He said, even when you were working part-time at the book cafe, you seemed like a veteran. Wo'd been a working professional for about 20 years, and it's a bit intimidating. Yes, it's nostalgic for me too. That immature pressure interview. Hey, don't bring that up again. I was also excited at the time, and my screws were a bit loose. With voices slightly tinged by the alcohol, Tokimune and I reminisced, sporting faint smiles. Actually, I still think about it from time to time. The time when Haruka's heart broke. If you weren't there, I wonder if Haruka would have ever returned to her old self. For a brief moment, as if the alcohol had sobered him up, Tokimune voiced the possibility that might have been. You saved Haruka, and you gave the impetus for the company's reform. Because of you, the world surrounding me has changed in a very kind direction. That thought often crosses my mind recently. Tokimune. I don't believe in the nonsense passed down in the Shizuen family, but you were undoubtedly the savior of our family. I truly deeply appreciate it. Wait. Please don't bow your head. Though he remained seated, I panicked as the president lowered his head deeply towards me. After all, I had only pursued my own feelings of love, and it was too much for a mere mortal like me to receive such gratitude. Well, consider that my thanks. As a part of that gratitude, I'll keep giving you projects. After all, eventually, I plan to leave the company in your hands. PR Prissy? Tokimune nonchalantly dropped this cryptic bombshell, leaving me dumbfounded for a moment. What did he just say? So, you'll be the president. Of course, you're still inexperienced, but from now on, I'll train you rigorously in management. Oh, by the way, eventually, you're expected to become a close confidant to Mishima, who will become an executive. At? No, what are you thinking? There's no way I'm cut out for that. I used to be a corporate slave, you know? A success story where a slave becomes a king is too heavy? What are you saying? Not only do you have foresight, but you're also incredibly eager for learning, and you're always filled with the ambition to better yourself. I'm confident that with me passing on all my knowledge and experience, and with you building up an excellent support system, you'll handle it with no problem. Emphasizing his intuition, Tokimune spoke as if it were a matter of course. And I don't particularly like hereditary systems, but having family takeover is a natural and less resistant story, don't you think? Well, that may be true, but this isn't a small local company in the countryside, you know? Well, in the end, if I judge that you can't be entrusted with it, I'll ask someone else. Just keep in mind that there's also a future where you don't have to prepare for it with such determination. As if enjoying my fluster, Tokimune chuckled and tilted his glass of whiskey. Oh well, I don't know how serious he is, but I'm feeling quite exhausted. Well, anyway, starting next week, I'll make sure to set aside plenty of time for teaching management. Make sure to let your family know. If they think you're being unfairly restrained, I might receive an angry phone call. How motivated are you, really? Let's reconsider. After all, I'll just end up as an incompetent second generation who ruins a big corporation? To my earnest protest, Tokimune laughed quite amusedly. Evening has fallen, and it's already quite dark outside. On the train heading home, I find myself reflecting on the absurd statement Tokimune-san made just an hour ago. Really, me with only a little over a decade more of work experience than the average person, becoming the president of a major corporation? That's absurd. Well, it seems like it's a plan for about 10 years down the line, and by then, Tokimune-san will probably have sobered up and chosen someone more competent. Well, leaving that aside, it's rather interesting to be involved in large-scale projects and such, unlike in my previous life. A rewarding job is a common phrase in the world of overwork, but I never thought I'd actually experience days where work feels rewarding. Perhaps because I go by my maiden name to avoid special treatment at work, my relationships with colleagues are also good. It's safe to say that my days now are peaceful, fulfilling, and more human than anything compared to my previous life. Looks like Kaneko has released another video. I tap the message displayed on my smartphone, and it opens a link to a certain popular video sharing site. There, displayed under the straightforward title Kana channel, is my sister Kaneko, who has grown into quite the beauty, smiling boldly in the thumbnail without hiding her face. Impressed by her courage, I put on the wireless earphones I took out of my bag and tapped the play icon. Hello, everyone. It's Kana. Are all you lost boys and girls watching? Alright, let's get right into it, and take on some love advice today. While Kaneko currently works as an office lady at an apparel company, she also manages to be a video creator. Her specialty? Love advice, as she boldly declares herself. It follows a format where she answers earnest concerns from listeners, like what to do when you're not popular, or when the person you're interested in likes someone else. She imparts practical choices for clothes and hairstyles, gives fervent encouragement for those having a hard time deciding, and if the problem is truly serious, she even contacts them off-screen to discuss it further. This passionate style caught on like wildfire, and she's now a reasonably famous personality. By the way, during her videos, she frequently talks about me, presenting me as an example of an ordinary guy who, through effort, won the heart of an aristocratic lady. Because of this, she's often teased by fans with comments like Kana-san has a brother complex, and she's seen fuming at her computer in response. Seriously, look at that happy face. Gazing at my sister's lively smile in the video, I couldn't help but let a small smile creep onto my face. Unlike the first round, where we repaired our relationship in our teens, we've become adults now and still maintain a harmonious relationship. When we meet, we chat just like we did when we were students. This fact makes me so incredibly happy that tears threaten to well up. As expected, it's a big deal that Mom is doing well. The biggest difference for the Nayahama family from the first round world is that Mom, who should have already passed away, is currently brimming with vitality. Far from accumulating stress and falling ill, she's still actively working, going on trips with friends, pursuing hobbies, and never losing her smile. She's even said things like, "You guys are completely independent now, and I'm thinking about trying my hand at finding love again." Well, you know, after watching you, Shinichiro, I thought maybe it's not a bad idea to give it a shot again. Whenever I see her living her new life so full of vigor every time she returns home, I can't help but feel my eyes well up with tears. As I savor the happiness of having a family where both members are smiling, my smartphone displays a new message in our group chat. To the man on top of the world, Nayahama, don't forget about the alumni reunion. Even if your days are sugar-coated, we're all looking forward to seeing the nostalgic gang back together. This unique message came from the independent-minded girl with glasses, Mizuki Kazumihara. After graduating high school, it seems she went to university, but she astonishingly won a light novel award and debuted as a writer while still a student. She's now become a popular author, and her talent is nothing short of amazing. But well, her debut work it's a story about an ordinary, introverted high schooler, through effort and determination, winning over a talented and beautiful young lady who's an heiress. Back when it was released, I expressed my displeasure with a stern look, saying, "Hey, this a model?" But she skillfully avoided the topic, saying, "This story is fiction. It has no connection to real people or organizations," and acted as if nothing had happened. Honestly, no matter how old we get, she's still an extreme free spirit. I'm looking forward to the alumni reunion. Man, those days, going to the beach, it was really a youthful time. Let's catch up on all the piled up stories. Next, the message sent to the group chat was from Fudehashi, the lively girl. Being a sports instructor at the gym seems to be her calling, as she seems to have fulfilling days. Even now, as an adult, she possesses a high schooler's brightness and freshness in a positive way, and it seems she's well liked by both colleagues and clients. However, it seems her coaching style becomes a bit more intense with a sports-like vibe towards students she sees potential in. This has led to her being nicknamed Spartan Sensei by gym-goers, which isn't exactly an honor. I'm a bit busy but I'll be there too. It's totally unexpected that I'm looking forward to a high school reunion so much. Following the next message was from Yamahira Jinji, my best male friend from high school. That Jinji guy has changed quite a bit from the first round world. In the first round world, Jinji ended up in a not-so-great company, slightly better than my crappy one, and like me, he spent his days lamenting his life's failures. Knowing this, I had been thinking if there was any advice I could give him to choose a slightly better path. But then, during the winter of our second year in high school, he suddenly made a declaration. Shinichiro, I was kinda moved, you know. Even a gloomy, geeky guy like you proved that with effort, you can win over a girl like a princess. Thanks to you, my perspective on life changed a bit. Whether he was praising or mocking me, it was hard to tell. With a serious expression, Jinji continued. For some reason, I feel like if I continue like this, my life will end up just average, joining a mediocre company without a girlfriend. So, I started thinking I should learn from you and step up my game a bit. His words weren't a lie. He threw himself into his studies, passed his first choice university, and not only that, but he accumulated knowledge in IT and became a programmer. Now, he's working at a major game company, a dream he's had since forever. I'm in awe of his power to change his own fate without any direct interference from me. Maybe he has far more inner strength as a human being than I do, but well, it really hits home. A future where important family members and former classmates are living in harmony. Just knowing that close people are living healthy lives fills my heart. This situation that was originally impossible is too much of a miracle, too dazzling, and too precious. Well, but in the rattling train, I put my smartphone in my pocket and smile wryly. My current situation is probably the greatest miracle of all. Back when I used to take the train home in my previous life, I wished I'd never reached the station where I had to get off. Because, if I didn't get off at the station, time wouldn't move forward. I cursed my own routine with a head drained of vitality, hoping that the painful mornings would never come. But now, I want to get home as soon as possible. Because, for me, the most precious happiness is waiting there. One last episode? Called the final episode? In a quiet residential neighborhood, there stood a house. It was a stylish two-story, monochrome-colored structure with a modern cube-like design. This brand-new, splendid house was now my home. Perhaps it's a bit too grand for me, but, with the increased head count, the apartment was getting a bit cramped. While this house might be a bit extravagant for a guy in his 20s like me, most of the purchase cost was covered by Tokaimun-san. Naturally, I tried to decline, but he insisted, saying, "Please. Your new beginning brings tears of joy to both me and my wife. As parents, let us do at least this much for you." Oh, the lights are on again. In my previous life, the only thing that greeted me every day was the darkness of a tiny apartment. Compared to that, the warm glow escaping from the windows of this house was a marvel. Thinking such, I approached the front door. "Welcome home, Shinichiro-kun." Right in front of the entrance, she, adorned in an apron, was waiting. With her glossy, long hair, milky white skin, and eyes that sparkled like precious gemstones, her beauty, which would put any actress to shame, was illuminated by the gentle light of our home. Her grown-up beauty was beyond comparison, even to actresses. Yet, her pure and virtuous heart remained unchanged from those days. To call her anything less than a goddess would be an understatement. She smiled even brighter than she did when we were high school students. The fatigue from a day's work and the lingering traces of alcohol both vanished at the sight of her smile. The most important person to me, the one who embraced and understood the overflowing feelings of my love. My wife, Haruka, who I admired every day she was there. "I'm back, Haruka. Did you really have to come all the way to greet me?" "Yes, well, when I closed the curtains on the second floor, I happened to see you coming back. I just felt like giving you a nice welcome," she told me with a smile as radiant as blooming flowers. Embracing Haruka, I felt the intoxicating scent and warmth that made my head spin. I cherished the sensation of her body, which seemed to exude sensuality. "Dear, we're still outside, you know?" I couldn't help myself. Honestly, even though no one's around, we're still outside, you know? I couldn't help myself. Haruka blushed, but allowed herself to be embraced, closing her eyes slowly. And so, I kissed her, a kiss that I'd lost count of. As our lips met, our hearts communicated our feelings. We were filled with happiness. Sorry, but now that I've calmed down a bit, I'm starting to feel a little embarrassed too. Releasing Haruka from my arms, I blushed, belatedly feeling the shame. Maybe it was because of the sake with Tokaimun-san earlier, or the messages from my former classmates, but it seemed my mood was quite elevated. Well, I'm happy about it. My beloved Shinichiro always expresses his feelings like this for me. In the moonlight, Haruka smiled gently. In this way, my wife always delighted me with such gestures. Well, it's been almost 5 years since we got married, but my passion for Haruka seems to increase more and more. From dating in our second year of high school to entering the same university, and then getting married while starting work, even after accounting for the turbulence in between, what comes to mind are only happy memories. Despite this, having once tasted this flavor, I find myself constantly dominated by the desire to be affectionate. "Welcome home, wa?" Suddenly, a figure rushed towards me like a bullet and delivered a powerful tackle to my legs. Startled, I looked down at my feet and there was a little angel. "Welcome home, Daddy. Thank you for working hard." Aya Sakura. Hugging me tightly at my legs, my 3-year-old daughter, Sakura, beamed a full smile. With her silky, lustrous hair grown out a bit, she inherited her mother's beauty and had an untroubled smile that could melt anyone's heart. For me, the most important thing in the world exists in twos without a clear winner. One of them is my incredibly adorable daughter, Sakura. "So, Daddy and Mommy were kissing again?" Sakura, please don't say that kind of thing outside. Well, Sakura really likes it when Daddy and Mommy kiss, and when Sakura gets kissed too. Already, but you're right. Mom likes to kiss on Sakura, too. After saying that, Haruka bent her knees to meet her daughter's eyes and gently kissed her cheek. Then, Sakura narrowed her eyes, looking very happy. As I looked at the two people I love, I felt everything inside me become completely satisfied. It is precisely because I know the emptiness and despair of something that did not happen that I can deeply feel that this scene has more value than all the goods in the world. My heart is so full that it feels like it's going to overflow, and I'm so overcome with emotion that my eyes are hot. I have arrived at the future I had hoped for. I suddenly thought of my own history. It started with regret for a life filled with failures. I was so miserable that I had no choice but to continue shedding tears and vomiting blood. Next, fueled by regret, I began to run, turning my wishes into a path. I raced with my whole being, unafraid to fight for what I truly desired, in order to obtain it. And so, I find myself here now. To the horizon I yearned, prayed, and longed for with a fervor bordering on madness, I have finally arrived. Well then, shall we go inside? Hee, today we have hamburgers, which Sakura loves. And as a bonus, there's a sunny-side-up egg too. Really? Wow, I have to wash my hands quickly? As Haruka spoke with an expression full of tenderness, Sakura's eyes sparkled with excitement. She dashed towards the entrance and hurriedly went inside the house. Seeing our adorable daughter like this, our cheeks softened with a big smile. Well then, let's get inside too. Haruka. Yes? These were words I'd spoken countless times, and I was aware of how often I said them. Still, when my feelings overflowed in my heart, I couldn't help but say these words. I love you. Just a moment ago, we embraced and shared a kiss, yet every time Haruka hears my feelings, she blushes like this. Her reaction, unchanged since our school days, is irresistibly endearing. Yes, I feel the same way. Haruka, with her cheeks tinged a soft peach, speaks with heartfelt emotion. I love you too, Shinichiro. In the night's darkness, Haruka wears a radiant smile akin to a blossoming flower. There's not a hint of shadow, only an overflow of pure happiness. And so, hand in hand, we turn towards our warm, glowing home. In my heart, there's a modest pride in the continuous strides I've taken. Ahead lies a path that shines so brilliantly in the future. By my side is the person with whom I've shared my feelings, a small crystal of happiness. Savoring the miracle of the happiness we've reached, we step forward into the future we've fought hard to grasp. The end.